I'm getting right now. Yes, I'm looking at that today.
I knew I wasn't at the top of your
Test.
list,
Well,
so
my
Something would
computer went on the fritz on Tuesday. So I like changed my work password because it was about to expire in 2 days. And then like the next day, my computer like stopped working.
Yeah.
I didn't really even think about, I was not getting any work emails to my phone until I just logged into this computer. And I had like 25 emails. And I realized I never like changed it here. So yeah,
I'm glad you're.
changing these right, or looking at these right now.
Good.
Ready to go?
Yep,
Okay.
and recording.
All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Wednesday, August 10th, 2023. Oh, Thursday, August 10th, LSC meeting. Thank you all for coming. We're going to start with a roll call. So I'm going to say Sandra Kaler.
Here.
Brad Kessler.
Here.
Amy Zemnick.
Here.
Dr. Steinmiller.
Here.
Peter Talmers. Ted Smith.
Here.
David Cottons.
Present.
Alexander Terzuski.
Here.
And Koya Love.
Here.
All right. So thank you all for coming. I would like to just start and do a quick round robin of who all is here in the room so we can know a little bit about you all and you can know also who we are in terms of our roles. So Ms. Kaler, would you just say your name and your role on the LSC?
Sandra Kaler, and I am the teacher rep.
Brad Kessler, I'm the community rep.
Amy Zemnick, parent rep.
Eric Steinmiller, principal.
Peter Talmers, parent rep.
David Cottons, teacher rep.
Alexander Torzeski, student representative.
Akoya Love, student rep.
Okay, great. And could I just ask that we continue into the audience, just sort of say your name and maybe are you a parent, a student, community member, something like that? Great, welcome. Great, thank you. Great, thanks.
Community member.
Welcome. Welcome. What was that? Okay.
All right.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
My name is Adam.
Welcome. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome. All right. Thanks, everybody. And I know we have some people online. We maybe not that many, but let's just go ahead and get started. So the first thing is we have some minutes to review and approve from a last couple meetings. And Ted, maybe I'd ask your assistance on just verifying these, but the first set of minutes is for the July 31st special LSC meeting. Okay. So any comments on the July 31st minutes anyone has? Okay, I'll vote to approve. So a motion to approve the minutes. Motion, and Brad will second. Thank you. All those in favor? All right, all those opposed? Abstain?
Yeah, I didn't read them.
Mr. Cottons,
The email discrepancies that I was just describing, so.
no problem. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, The next set of meeting minutes will be from the July 13th organizational meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Ms. Zemnick, second. Mr. Smith, all those in favor? Okay, and Mr. Cotton's abstaining, I assume. Okay, great, thank you. And then we have June as well. Okay, so we have can we approve them in unison? We have to go through each one. All right, for the May and June minutes, is there a motion to approve those minutes? Ms. Zemnick, a second.
Make it easy for Ted.
Okay, Mr. Smith, thank you. All those in favor? All right, thank
Yes,
you. So that's unanimous. All right, so the minutes have been approved. Okay, so we are now going to move on to the LSC Budget Subcommittee. So just
I think we'll do public comment.
we do. I'm sorry, we went out of order. Yes. So we now have a period for public comment. Anyone is welcome to come up to the podium and make a comment, or if you're online, you can make a comment. We ask that you keep your comments to 2 minutes, but we welcome anyone who wants to share anything.
Do you want me to keep time? Are we gonna
Sure.
kind of
Yeah, we should just,
maybe?
yeah, just for efficiency,
things
2
up a little.
minutes. Yeah, that'll be great. Thanks, Amy. And just an FYI, the comments are literally comments. It is not a dialogue where we are, responding and things like that. If you have a question, we will note it. We will include it in the minutes. We'll follow up, but we may not be able to respond like on the spot. So, okay. Are there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Public interpretive dance? No. Okay. Ms. Hilton, that was for you. Okay. Then I think we can continue on the agenda since there are no public comments. Next is the LSC Budget Subcommittee. So just a high level, the local school council meets once a month like this. It's going to be the second Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. in this room and with the Zoom link. Between those meetings, there are subcommittees that focus on specific topics like facilities or safety or budget and finance, things like that. And so during this meeting, we will go through subcommittees and people will report out if there's anything new on progress that they've made or issues to raise. So that's just a little bit about what the subcommittees are. And with that, we have the budget subcommittee that is next. So I'll turn that over to Mr. Kessler or Dr. Steinmiller.
Yeah. We have yet to committee for this school year yet, and then change over the policy. So I wonder if that time really could prepare to talk about. I know we can talk about budget transfers.
Yep.
In addition to the fundraising.
You got it. I'll start off. The transfers are relatively simple at this point because we haven't really done a whole lot. So let me share our screen and go from there. Yeah, this is right. Perfect. These are from last, so you can see this is all June. These have previously been approved. So we're good on these lines. The amount that we're really focusing on is 8 to 2023. These are all OST funds. They're designated for summer clubs. It's not a whole lot of money. That's basically the amount of items that we're actually transferring. But again, OST is out of school time funding. We are leading the district in asking money for these types of funds. We were at about $308,000. I anticipate we'll be closer to $400,000. Just because we're trying to fund a lot of different opportunities for our students on weekends and during the after school events. So, but this is some of the summer clubs that we had, some of the spending. There'll be more at the September meeting. But for the sake of the official transfer, these are the items and its supplies for summer activities. The other, make sure I have the right one here. That's the transfer there. Let me pull up within our tracker again. We are repurposing some of our funds. This is from IMES. When I say IMES, these are internal accounts. Sometimes these are dedicated specifically for specific items. What we are looking to repurpose, there's a bunch of items that are just floating in accounts that haven't been used in about 5 years. It equates to $17,000. we want to reallocate that for supplies for the beginning of the year. It's like books and items that we need for our department. So, but we need a LSC approval for that transfer to move those separate lines of random things that have been sitting there for a long period. The $9 in the bike club, the cultural connection club, 33 cents. I mean, we're just going through all these things that are just sitting there and we're finally condensing them. Interesting enough, there is money in a key club and I know that somebody is interested in that. So we can talk about that moving forward. But the point is this is to pull all of these random funds that are just been sitting for like 5+ years without being used. And that will supply what we need for classes, textbooks for English department, supplies for chemistry, paper. So that's, yeah.
Is, obviously the role of the LSC is.
Here.
Oh, sorry.
Role of the LSC is make sure we approve specifically the transfers. Do you know, is this something that we need to try to approve today, or is it possible either you give an exact accounting and we approve in a special meeting, that we call, or a meeting in September?
We can, this will delay supplies for departments for the beginning of the school year. I mean,
Or do you have right now like an exact accounting though, then?
of
Or
all
you,
of this,
yeah.
exact dollar amount.
of the repurpose, where the exact dollar is going,
$819.92.
and then where it's heading?
That will go to other instructional purposes. It's going to go to a line that most of you pay, like, I believe for other instructional purposes, it's going to the miscellaneous line where we're putting it into the line. And then at a future LSC meeting, it would be, we're using instructional purposes miscellaneous line to purchase blank. That would come up in the next LSC. Instead of doing at the next meeting, we're making this move. We're already consolidating now. So at the next meeting, we just use that line for that purpose.
Can we keep the library open for discussion in terms of hopefully any sort of money being allocated for new books, because they haven't had them for 3 years?
Yeah, I think that's
I just want to put it on the agenda and on the floor.
So what, if we consolidate the 17,819 from those lines, what we can do at the next budget committee is let's put that forward. Let's identify funds to go toward the library. I think that's a really good point.
Perhaps she can give you a list, an enumerated list, and how much would be, and then talk about that.
So Brad, let's add that to an agenda item for our next meeting.
Okay.
Let's get it moving.
I think she was working on that too, through Friends of, I just saw an email come.
Me too,
today. So
but I'm not sure where that is.
But
But
we could maybe kick it along now that we have
Okay.
funds that could come soon. There's no, I remember trying to do this years ago. There's no issue with being able to consolidate these funds and move them, I'm assuming.
We have them lined up to be able to do it. We just
Okay.
need LSC approval. So we had budget transfers and then repurposing these funds. There's some other things that are fees and fundraisers. So I'd like to separate those into a vote. So I would move that we approve these transfers. Then I can talk about the other ones.
I'll second.
Yeah, is there a motion to approve? Oh,
He moved.
I'm sorry.
I seconded.
Really?
Now we vote.
I was studying something, forgive me.
what's the motion again?
The motion is to approve the transfer of the OST funds and then to consolidate, ultimately transfer from all these individual internal accounts into the miscellaneous line for instructional purposes.
And then we will, at the next meeting, have the power to determine, or not the power, but be able to have a discussion around where that money's
Where it
going.
goes.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, is there a motion?
All right.
Okay. Okay, yep. All those in favor? Okay, passes unanimously.
Moving forward, fees, and also this is some of the old business, so I'll bring up that at the same time. School fees, we already approved the school fees, $400, graduation fee of the $100, but there's some other items that I wanted to bring up in our documents. One is for senior grad night, senior prom. These are the fee letters that would be associated with it, senior awards ceremony. If we have these in place, if we decide at some point we don't want to move forward with senior awards ceremony, we don't have to apply it to their account, but it's already approved by the LSC to be able to do so. We do have the blue and gold game for our bus fee for any students who want to go to the game, and it'll be off site. for our start of the basketball season. So we're getting, again, way ahead of events that are taking place. This is a very heavy LSC meeting with fees, funds, because it's the start of the year. But these are the items that I would like to move forward with, get approved. You can, each of these letters here are the formal documents, just to give you an example of what needs to be laid out. So for example, this was one of the questions, like grad night includes entrance to Six Flags, the bus fee. And so instead of collecting this in May, we're just going to have that laid out. So this is for grad night. If students don't want to participate, they don't have to pay the fee. The other documents that we have, for example, senior prom, $150. It's rental of the facility, decorations, DJ services, additional services. It is a fee. And as I presented at the last LSC meeting, when we do fees and we do events like this, these aren't fundraisers. We don't anticipate, quote, making money. Being realistic, we will lose potentially some dollars to it to offset free and reduced, because that free and reduced needs to make sure our students have access to some of the events that we have place. Again, this isn't, we're not making this like a specific fee waiver thing, but when families are, we will talk through prom. I don't want to withhold a kid from prom, but it's also not, it's not required. It's not an academic thing that is required. So free and reduced waivers for fees aren't necessarily applicable, but we will work with families. So just to communicate to the LLC. Otherwise, we can't afford it if we don't charge a fee. And that's something that is just required. So this was the.
Does that include tickets, Dr. Steinmiller?
Yeah, this is everything.
Okay.
And I'm doing these as a whole. If you'd like for me to ask for approval individually, but I figured it'd be easier for just the presentation of this. Again, our senior awards is $40. This is venue rental, awards, decorations, and the food for participating in a senior awards event that would take place in the spring. The final thing is then our blue and gold game. Here's our fee letter again. The transportation to the location. Again, we're getting in advance of all of these activities. So these are proposed fees that will set us up for the rest of the year. Any questions before?
Well, these are fees, not fundraisers.
Correct. Fees, you do not make money on. Fees are money in and go directly to it. If you make any money on it, you actually it has to be presented as a fundraiser. I anticipate that we could be, I'll use example, senior prom. It's expensive to do prom. We could, depending on the event, well, maybe $1,000, $2,000 overage. We'll use student fees to offset the cost of it. That's, we have a small senior class, 400, and I don't have the number on the top of my head. It's a small senior class, so we don't want to. So I anticipate we will have more of a gap we will need to offset so that we don't reduce the experience just because it's a small class. Most of our classes are around 500 plus. So we need to make sure we're not going to say, I'm sorry, you don't get to go to the Hilton, or you don't go, we're going to have to use a smaller venue that's just not as nice. That I don't think is what the experience we want for our students, just because it's a small class, especially being freshman COVID class being our senior year. So we need to make sure their experience is the same as every other senior class that we've
Great. Okay.
I just want to do a quick point of order. I know we have new student reps. I mean, we're two meetings in largely, but just as a reminder, you can raise your voices at any time. It's always welcome. Okay.
These are my the fees. There are no more questions. I'd like to move to approve these fees.
Okay. Is there a
Just
second?
one thing, if all this information could go out in Spanish as well. I know the school fee flyer did not go out in Spanish, I think, even though we requested it. So just make sure that we are reaching out to a very large demographic.
Okay, so Dr. Steinmiller has motioned for a vote to just summarize
The
this.
slate approve these fees.
Okay, is there a second? Amy Zemnick, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Thank you very much.
Moving forward, these are fundraisers, and I know there are some additional fundraisers for athletics that we'll also bring up. And I'll explain the athletic one in just a little bit, but I'm going to focus on these for the time being, the ones that are listed here. Some of these have, try I have the right ones. All right. We are trying to streamline processes for any fundraisers that are going on. We know that this is a work in progress as we're trying to effectively communicate what this looks like. I have a document I'll show you in just a second, but for example, fundraising, this is in general, our network chief and district requires us to have them approve any fundraiser that takes place at a school. This is not negotiable. There's no, that is it. I know different schools have different pathways. They do things. Sometimes there's a way around. We are going to follow these practices. This is a draft. This is not a final product, but Ms. Lopez and I are working on streamlining. What does this look like? And basically there are 3 things that need to go before the LSC. I want to clarify what they mean, and then I will go through the fundraising. A fundraising, basically in short, you're collecting money or you're selling something to raise funds. And in doing so, there is a proposal. If it's athletics, we need to make sure our AD is incorporated in this. If it's other staff members, we have a fundraising request form. And these are things that we're going to share with our PD with our teachers next week. Professional PD is professional development of just streamlining these processes. We're asking for things to be submitted 4 to 6 weeks in advance of the event. We know that that's an ask, and we're going to work with teams. We're going to work with people on this. Even the day of, we'll sit there and we'll make sure you get all together. But like right now, that's where we should be striving for, because it does require the chief's approval. And if we send something today to the chief that's tomorrow, that doesn't give the chief enough time, and that's what we're taking into account. And so again, this is basically the layout of it, the processes we need to do. And then once we are done with the fundraiser, we need to end it, which means there should be a letter of, hey, we collected this much money and here's what we spent it. There's a formal process if money comes to our school. If it's through a booster, it's the letter, hey, we spent this and here's how much we collected, here's what we spent. And those are the 2 things: request for the fundraiser, approved by the LSC, and then, hey, we're done, here's what we did with it. Those are the only 2 documents we really need. And a letter will work. We put them together, we put it and it's submitted. And then the chief and anybody in the district can see that we fulfilled the process. If you've ever been in Ms. Lopez's office, you will see about 50 books organized by all the different kind of budgetary things that we need to have done in paper often. The other thing is a fee, which we just approved. A fee is a set dollar. Often that gets kind of, with a fee, you're expecting everybody to pay that fee. It's not a fundraiser because you're basically saying, here's $50 to be able to go to prom, or $150 to go to prom. It's specific, hey, that's it. You're not paying more, you're not paying less. That's what is needed. For the most part, we're not applying fees except for school fees, $400. Everybody pays $400. The waiver applies because it goes to instructional purposes. So you're not going to see a lot of teams asking for fees, because actually donations are a more profitable way of doing that. The line, when I talk about gifts, grants, and donations, this is more on an individual basis. Fundraising, entire like every player on the team, we're doing a fundraiser. We're asking everybody we suggest a donation of 150. If you can't, give 100. If you can, give 50. If you can give more, give 200. It's a fundraiser, not a donation, because that's the process in which you're raising funds. A donation tends to be an individual person giving a grant, money allocated for a specific reason. That's why you see gifts, grants, and donations. This requires a specific letter. It goes to Ms. Lopez. It's saying what this should be used for. For example, we've gotten $100,000 in the past year for mathematics support. So it can only go to math, specific donation. Sometimes we get gifts, meaning we're giving the school furniture. Here's 100 tables, 100 this. Those are gifts. They're documented and we're received. So whatever's coming in and going out, we've documented. For the most part, gifts and grants and donations, they do not require LSC approval to receive it. You will be involved in the spending of it. So if it's $100,000 for mathematics, and then we spend the money towards calculators, which we did, then or smart boards for math specific rooms, then as an LSU would vote, we're using this grant to pay for this. It's going to, so you're making sure the grant's being spent appropriately. Now I'm not using that $100,000 to buy cupcakes for everybody. which would be fun, but that would be a lot. Okay, need that. So that's just, does this make sense? And just the rationale of what this means. We'll refine this to make it try to make it more user friendly, but it's something that we're starting off with to help our coaches and everybody through it and linking the documents. Yeah.
What do you think about uniform fees and like team stores? Do those need approval?
So a team store in which, let's say they're selling, I'll use an example because we're going to talk about this with basketball in just a moment and soccer as well. Both of those teams are setting up basically online stores in which they're selling clothing that has basketball shirt. 40% of the profits from that go to the team. And then obviously then the company, be it New Balance, Nike, or whatever, they make it as well. That's a fundraiser and it's over a period of time. They make money of it. It needs to be approved by the LSC. A lot of teams, and this applies to the conversation we had at the last LSC meeting, was the question of whether we offer fees as a school to participate in athletics. And after meeting with several coaches, I've determined that would actually be detrimental to those programs because they actually they're fundraising more money from families by having families just purchase uniforms. An example, again, I use basketball because I'm going to propose this in a little while. They're going to charge, families will be charged $250 to buy their jerseys, shoes, bags, warm-up suits, like a whole bunch of stuff for $250. That is more than a $175 fee because that would go to all 20 plus teams. And we would only be able to give about $3,000 a team. 2 to 3 at best. And that money, again, would most likely need to go to transportation at that point anyway. And so allowing teams to be able to do their own independent fundraising, players buy their own uniforms. If they buy it themselves, they get to keep it as well. If we purchase uniforms, we keep. We are not allowed to use federal or state funding to buy like uniforms for kids and give it to them in athletics. There's a $50 gift limit with athletes, IHSA. And so we have to, you get into really kind of bad areas. So talking with soccer, they want to maintain moving forward where families are buying their jerseys and supplies, and then families then have an opportunity to donate, and then they have the store in which you can do additional purchases. That seems to be the pattern also with cross country and track. It's the direction basketball is going, and we're going to encourage other teams to follow this direction. So we as an LSC can utilize funds for transportation as they're internally sustaining themselves. We and the independent teams will be purchasing additional uniform supplies for those who can't afford $250. So it's not that player will not have a jersey because they can't. Nobody would know the difference because the teams are offsetting it with $250 purchase. They'll buy their own. At the end of the season, they have to just give their uniform back to that coach.
So I guess my question was, does a coach need to present that to the LSC that they're going to buy their own uniforms, or they're going to open a team store to buy T-shirts and shorts? Or
yeah, I'm going to make a proposal today that's going to for several of the teams that have already said that that's a process, and also give the LSC a heads up. This will probably be the norm of a process of today. It's going to be soccer, it's going to be cross country, and it's going to be basketball and tennis. Thank you. And then and dance. And so we will have those teams. We already know are going to have that process. I think as an LSC, not to create like just a blank statement for everybody, I think that should be our norm practice as a school. And I'm okay with us approving it as an LSC for all sports teams to do that process. So we aren't now, what's the 4 weeks? How do we catch up? If we approve that is a process every team has approved to do, they would still need to present the form. We've already voted on it today. And then the chair and I will sign off on it once they are about to start that process, because it does have an end date. And we just need to make sure that that is being, but if we approve it as an LSC, that all sports teams can have their families purchase directly their own uniform supplies, give gift donations, not requirement to participate in the sport, that they can have web pages to sell their swag. I can't think, that's a better word. I'm so old.
Merch.
Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Thanks. And merch. So we set it up as the norm for all the teams. Then we don't have to keep like going back to this as an LLC and spend an hour discussing fundraisers that we know we're already should approve. Is that fair?
Yeah, I have one more question.
Yep.
I know we talked about the 4 to 6 weeks and that
Yep.
there is, movement on that. Seasons only last like 12 weeks. So 4 to 6 weeks to set up, that means fall sports would have had to start their fundraising efforts at the beginning of June to make the 6-week to get it in for the LSC meeting today. Pretty unrealistic for a coach who makes a small stipend to be doing that over the summer or to even be thinking that far in advance for a fundraiser. So, and then if they miss today, they can't come back till September 14th. Season's pretty much done. So we got to figure that out because that's not going to work. I think we either need to shorten that time or obviously you said we will work with everybody on that, or the AD, somebody has to be on it with the coaches, telling them back in June, you guys need to start submitting your proposals.
Yep.
They'll have to do that again. Like they should start with winter right now because that's going to be right around the corner. So somebody either has to be on that or we got to figure out that's not being communicated for sure to
Totally fair.
anyone, but it's being communicated to them the day before or the day of an LSC meeting, which I think is, a little inappropriate.
Well,
think
I totally agree with you. And we're working with the individual teams. I mean, again, there are some fun proposals like within the last week. We're not saying no. There isn't a single proposal that we said, sorry, it's 4 to 6 weeks. This is where we want to be. We do want to be in the situation because then you're fully informed. You see things well in advance. One of the, again, basketball is one of them. That's a fall sport that we're already getting in front of these. So this is where we want to be. I know we're not there because we don't have this culture yet. We will. And so I think every point you said, I completely agree with you, but we have to start somewhere. And this is really a beginning to that. And I will work with every single coach to make sure that we get to that.
And to make sure that if there is a team for a fall sport in particular that needs funds, that we make sure to get that done ASAP.
Yep.
And if that means we need to do a special meeting to approve these as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. If we're missing, we should not make that. We do not want to have a norm of, we have to have all these additional emergency meetings, but if we need to or have to, we will. That's our responsibility to fund. But again, this is where I want us to get. So if in a week or two, there's a team that's like, we have a very special fundraiser that's not, again, asking for donations, asking for having those are the things that I think we norm for all teams as our practice for athletics. And they're doing it. They want to do candy grams or something like, or not candy. I wanted to candy cane things. Those are unique. Outside of that, we just need to be aware of what's going on.
Well, right. I think all of us think, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but it would be reasonable that by maybe, spring sports, they know this, but
Yeah.
certainly for fall and winter, there's going to need to be significant flexibility
100%.
around making sure, especially given the new coaches that are been brought on and everything
100%.
that.
This includes clubs as well, correct? This isn't just sports.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel uncomfortable having 4 to 6 weeks on there because I don't know. It sets it in writing and it might discourage club sponsors or advisors I'm not sure who this benefits. Why does it have to be 4 to 6 weeks?
Again, we still have to present this outside. Like I can make an argument to my chief that we are building this structure, right? They expected us to present it to them. We need to give them time. I can make an argument. Again, start of the school year. I think everything that we've talked about, chief, I need you to prove it. Yes, it's in a couple of days, but understand we're just getting the year kicked off and we're building this expectation. Come May, chief, here it is the day before. I needed to, she can say no. She could go, no, actually, you should have normed this for an entire year. This is every time we have a fundraiser, it's 2 days before. This is not, and we start getting denials. This is a way in which we can set an expectation. We will work through 4 to 6, but it should be, let's start thinking ahead because then we're always going to be reactive. I would like to be proactive. Most things you're going to hear today are proactive response, like ways in which we can get in front of things. We've already approved our senior events for the year. I want to make sure that we're approving in advance fundraisers. Also, it would be great at some point that all our fundraisers for the year are laid out at this meeting at the beginning of the year so that we already know how many different fundraisers are going on at different times. And so ideally, I like to see that well in advance. It's thinking well in ahead, but I also know that we can be flexible. The 4 to 6, we should keep in there because that's going to be the expectation from a district level. And so I do hear your point. I will support everybody to work through this. But we do need to set an expectation of 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, then I would say then it's an expectation of the administration to make this clear to all teachers that are club sponsors and advisors and coaches. We're focusing on sports, but there are more clubs that are taking place day to day at Lincoln Park than sports teams. So, the communication has always been an issue. I know this is a new year, so hopefully communication will be better in terms of that.
Yeah, I would just like to echo that point. Not just coaches need access to this document that you're referring to here and refining. But obviously like teachers and anyone in the building, as well as, I mean, we've had countless like parents or other involved individuals with certain fundraising and stuff like that too. So this needs to be like very readily available by the general public in some other platform or way than coming and then asking 3 days before and not realizing that this is what is expected. So please just make it available and easily found.
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say, where will this be housed?
Mhm.
And, I think that's a big thing.
So at the beginning of the year, PD will make sure that, this, again, next week is when our teachers come. So we have to be able to share this with our teachers at that point. Again, it'll be in our communication that we send out on a regular basis. So this will be readily accessible. Mr. Stuckey's in the audience and my assistant principals are here. I know are also online just to take notes of that again, it'll be at our professional development. It'll be in our newsletters. It'll be in our shared documents. You're going to hear a lot more about shared like access to where information is at. And so everybody should be able to see that pretty easily. And again, if at any point somebody doesn't know, we have a business accountant, Ms. Lopez. She will help anybody. So she can also help anybody through this. So I just wanted to frame what this looks like because that leads to ultimately some of the fundraisers that you will see right here. We've already done the ticket sales. We actually approved that already with the $5. That was at our last meeting. We will have a winter formal dance. And so the winter formal dance will be for our students. Again, we are already proposing fundraisers for January, later times. And so this is a dance. It's $50. It pays for the venue. If there's extra money, and we anticipate we will have extra money, then it will go into for the most part for athletic transportation. And if you don't mind, I'm going to do this kind of as a slate. If you have specific questions, I can answer each of those. That's our winter formal. We've already approved the blue and gold transportation. This is down actually as a fundraiser, not as a fee. My bad. Our homecoming dance, again, the extra money from that will go to athletics. We have our homecoming dance. There's a cost of it. Hold on, I'm going too fast. $50 for our students participate in the homecoming dance. Again, we anticipate a profit that will go towards athletics. Majority of that will go towards paying transportation for our athletics teams. We were going to have an elementary sports clinic and fall league for our basketball teams where we're welcoming our 8 elementary feeder schools. We're going to have basically like a winter camp, have different camps for our students that we would like to propose. Those are some things that we have set up. Sorry, I'm on the wrong line. 6. That could be $75 to $200. Setting that up for having a camp. The next that we have in line is athletic teams concession stands. Setting this also up for athletics. So at our athletic events, we can offer concessions. It would range $1 to $5. Here's our anticipated money that we would make from it. And this would be for the entire season, all seasons, every sport. So again, we're doing all of that for the entire year. We're getting it all done in August instead of doing this like season by season, chunk by chunk. Boys basketball. This is the proposal that I'm going to make apply to basketball. But also there's another one that's not on here. This one is for maybe actually pull up the link. Oh man, I don't have access to this one. I believe this is the popcorn sales that our athletics, our boys basketball team will do. This is a very specific one. The form has been completed in full. I just wasn't linking to it. In that form, every coach fills out what the event is, the amount of time in which the event will take place, anticipate funds that you will receive for it. The Google form that you see fills this out. So when our AD receives that form from a coach, our AD will upload it here. Ms. Lopez will use this to put it into our system. That's the part of why our process is set up this way. So he will help with athletics. Individual coaches, the form I had on another document, or teachers, when they fill it out, it would upload the same way. So it would be if Mr. Cottons is doing a fundraiser for Math is Amazing Club. He would fill this out, submit that form, and then Ms. Lopez would load it. Cool. These are the ones that have been submitted. There's some that are not, that I still want to be proactive. These are talking about that 4 to 6 weeks. There were some that we're going to vote to approve today. But for those that have been submitted, these are the ones that I've just covered. The others that I know are to be presented, and I'll do the athletic generalization one in just a moment. But I do believe that we have, I would like to lump tennis into the general one that we'll do for all. Does that sound fair? The donation fundraiser. There are some specific unique fundraisers that I know that dance is working on. Would you like to share out some of those that you're doing to add to this list? I know that documentation has been aligned. We're good to go on all those documents. Oh yeah, do you want to get a microphone? So yeah, sorry.
There's 28 of them. I don't know how many you want me to go through.
28.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This would be a part of it.
So the dance team qualified for nationals again, as we all know, it's very expensive. So we have about 2 to 3 fundraisers every month to try to offset those costs. A lot of donation nights like Cilantro, Moretti's, Illuminati's, as well as events happening here like a car wash, selling spirit items like the sunglasses or beads at the football games, an LP talent show that we had last year, homecoming proposals, sidewalk chalk orders, Potbelly's donation night, hoping to have a fall 5K fall fest, Kendra Scott jewelry sale, give back event, a bingo night, candy cane grams, winter showcase. Keep going.
They're hustlers.
A fitness fest, a dance clinic for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders from those feeder schools, prom proposals. That'll be you this year, right? Silent auction, a summer camp for LP students interested in joining the team, going over those skills, and then big evaluation at the end of the year, hoping that we raise enough money to go to nationals.
Again, those forms have been completed in full. Mr. O, our AD, had a family emergency and he couldn't be here to present these. So I appreciate Ms. Hilton presenting on behalf of your own team, but yeah.
Do you want me to present the details around each of those, or would you just?
I believe that we can do it as a blank slate as long as the LSC would approve it. I've reviewed all of these for all of the proposals. They have been filled out in full. They're meeting all the expectations. Again, this is approval. We approve it. When these are completed, for example, Ms. Hilton would then say, this is how much we raised with these individual fundraisers, which there are individual forms for each of these, by the way. But she has, within that date, she would say, this is how much we raised and this is how it's being spent for. We know it's going to nationals because you qualified again because they're amazing. But that would be the process. But so I would say this, I would be putting all the fundraisers as one slate vote. So I don't see why we would need to individually vote on each of these.
My only question largely comes down to the more proactive we get, which is awesome. Thank you so much, Corey. Is that like, if not everyone is proactive, we could have a situation where at like a football game, there's one fundraiser going on that's competing with another fundraiser from another group fundraising as well. So it's more of a cautionary tale. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we reward the group that's most proactive in this way, but we also have to keep track so that if somebody else is trying to fundraise in a similar way or to compete, we say no, because there's already this fundraising activity happening at this event.
And Ms. Hilton and I actually talked about that. Again, she understands the process. And I think we'll be able to work with other teams to make sure that we have that moving forward. A lot of the events that are being planned are they're coming right up. So I don't see that competition at this point. But as we communicate this more, I can see that this is something we just need to be more clear with as we make this into a normal routine.
Also, it seems to me that your team requires significant funding that maybe other teams don't as much because of the nationals.
Yes.
Because they're so good.
Thank you. Yes, and I will say, I know you're talking a lot about fundraising training during PDs. I don't work here, so I won't be at those trainings. And there are a lot of coaches that also don't work here that will need to have access to those types of PDs. Because as you all were on that email, I didn't know how to fill out that form properly. And that's a problem. We should know how to fill out those forms so that we can get the fundraising going, especially if they need 4 to 6 weeks. That's a long approval process. And I know there's a lot of steps to that approval process. So we need to all be aware, coaches and club sponsors.
Process. 2 to 4 to 6 weeks. Is that mostly for the chief's desk, or is that internally that we require along the process?
It's a bit of both. One, it gives, we haven't started the school year. When the school year starts, our business account is doing, we have payroll, we have other purchasing. It's a lot of other things going on to make sure that internally we can support it. If it's I can tell you right now, if it's on a Tuesday, the day before payrolls due, we can't help you. We can't because we have to make sure that any missed swipes are adjusted. There's like 150 corrections being made so this allows us to ensure that we can make sure it's approved. So that's why we're saying 4 to 6 weeks. It gives us that flexibility, but we also, during the middle of the school year, I cannot ask the chief the day or two before. 2 weeks is appropriate for our chief to have ample time to be able to approve it, giving us 2 weeks internally to approve it. So that's why 4 to 6 weeks is time for us to be able to say we can get this taken care of. If I say it doesn't matter, so reversing that, if I say it doesn't matter, then we're going to start saying no to fundraisers because we are not going to be able to approve them in time. And this is so we can make sure we're approving all fundraisers.
Is 2 to 4 reasonable?
No, I'm just going to say, I know when our school year starts, I cannot tell Ms. Lopez that you have basically a 3 to 4 day turnaround on a fundraiser. And then to ask the chief I will not risk that denial. I know 4 to 6, we can guarantee, unless you just say no for some fundamental reason, we should be able to approve it. But I don't want to overextend our capacity. 2 to 4 would be an overextension of our capacity.
Can I ask, what is Miss Lopez doing? Is she reviewing the sheet, or what is her role?
So Ms. Lopez's role is she has to enter this into the system and again, if there's issues with Oracle is our system for any financial, so if she has to receive this and enter it. So if you just think about, that's going to take a couple day process just to receive it and enter it. Let's say it's wrong. Let's say there are errors in it. Let's say there's something else with it. So if we only had a 3 to 4 day turnaround and it's wrong, then we just have to say no. And that's, again, 4 to 6 gives us that flexibility to do it and talk through it and help and support it. What I'm saying is the process needs to start 4 to 6 out. It doesn't mean there could be errors. There could be something wrong that we can help with. But again, a 2 to 4 week, I wouldn't put that on any of my team members.
I think communication then, like Mr. Cotton's suggested, is going to be crucial because people have to know. I'm sorry.
Speak up so they.
People have to know that, they need to have these in 4 to 6 weeks because these seasons are so short, they're done.
Yeah.
So there's no fundraisers.
Well, here's the thing. I know that Dr. Steinmiller, you're also working on trying to make sure that each of the teams has a budget that's submitted, and it probably should extend to clubs as well in the conversations. And so it does seem like in Corey's presentation, she's thinking about her budget for the year to get ahead of it. And I know that you've spoken about obviously soccer and tennis and track, let's say. So this is part of the conversation. So if the budget is set at the beginning of the year, regardless if it's, well, in June, let's say for fall and September, October for winter or, spring or whatnot, then we're not going to be concerned about the 4 to 6 weeks, but there has to be training on the budget.
Yeah.
Right. In that conversation and then saying, okay, now get back to me with fundraisers.
I have a couple clarifying things as well to ask. When we're talking about the paperwork being submitted and the fundraiser ending, there needs to be a receipt saying that we spent this money on XYZ. When I'm thinking about the sustainability of my program, I'm not just fundraising for this year. I have to also fundraise for the future. So how can I fundraise outside of the school to support my team if I have no receipt to show? Like, for example, if my fundraisers end in February, but I'm thinking about dance camp in July, which I didn't pay for yet, what happens? Because I know you're asking for a receipt, but I won't have one.
Got it. Just from a point of order standpoint, like I know we're presenting on approving these, like I can, as a non-LSC, you and I can talk about it.
Okay.
Just so we're keeping our procedural parts forward. Like, these are things I need to work with individual coach. I'll still answer it for the time being.
Got it.
But when we know there's continual, that's also where the range of fundraisers can be longer. As I'm suggesting for coaches doing this, if your fundraiser is from September 1st to November 1st, but there's gonna be some continuation or you're not gonna receipt things until January, make it to January. You've spent it, you've fundraised, spent it, you've got it, and now you have your 10-day window at the end. And those are things that we will continue to work with. Again, we're presenting something that is structured. We're building structures. And I know there's going to be a learning curve associated with it, and we'll fully support everybody in that. But for this subcommittee and what we're doing, it's the specific fundraisers that I've presented. I would like, if there are no further questions on the specificity of those fundraisers, I'd like to move to approve that. Oh, yes.
Just to piggyback on not having like competing fundraisers, will clubs and other teams know what fundraisers have already been approved? And if not, can we make sure to do that also?
Good point. Good point.
Koya, you're asking, will other clubs know what fundraisers have already been approved?
Mhm.
So, oh, there's already a bake sale for
Yeah.
that team. Okay.
So like when
Mhm.
Palms is like selling like beads for games, we'll know like other teams can't do that for that specific game.
Yeah. Or you won't be very successful because you just did that.
Right.
Okay.
Can that document that you had just be a shared document, I guess, for all teachers? And that way they can go in, the director or the head of a club can go in and say, oh, no, wait, we have beads already being sold. Let's think of something else.
I don't see why not. Let me, I don't want to overextend my, this is something that Ms. Lopez is using. Let's think, I need to talk to her first about what can be shared, but I think these are great ideas about clarifying what has already been approved. And that's why we need to make sure, that's why the submission process is really important, because then we will see everything that is approved. And even at the end of the year, we will then be able to go, here are the range of fundraisers we've done, that have taken place over the course of the entire school year. Going even to like the athletics, we are putting budgets together. We'll now know what are all the teams doing? How are you raising it? And we can ask questions. Are we overextending ourselves? Are we drying out like the wells of people being able to contribute? But those are things that we will be able to have more clarity on by, again, streamlining processes.
Okay. So I'm going to summarize this right before we go to vote, that we're going to take an action item that we'll include in the minutes and will be part of new business, which is to document and communicate a process, timeline, roles, everything around this fundraising. Because I think you've written some stuff, but we need to get it out to people, have a transparent way for them to check. I think it's a great point. Like, don't cannibalize other teams with your idea. So seems like there's a lot in this, and maybe Ms. Lopez, I think, would be a key person to help with that.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Great. So would you just summarize your motion and then we'll get the vote?
You got it. I move that we approve all presented specific fundraisers that I just presented and was presented at this time.
Not including. those
Not including,
track, tennis.
I'm going to talk about those, like, I'm going to lump them.
Okay.
One discussion topic, if I can.
Yes.
Flag football was brought up by LPHS. And so whether that's included with, let's say, tennis in a moment.
Let me just double check. what has been shared with me.
I can summarize in a follow-up motion. What was submitted by, yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to, that's okay. Sorry for the discussion topic. We can continue on the motion.
Okay, so let's finish this motion. Is there a second on Dr. Simon's motion?
I will second.
Thank you, Ms. Emnick. All those in favor? There are no, it's unanimous. Thank you very much. Those pass.
Excellent. Moving on to the, let me get this out of the way so I can see it. Thank you.
Good luck, Corey. Good luck.
Cool.
Good luck.
The next proposal is then so that we aren't coming back for each team doing basically the same fundraiser, meaning every team, we've approved that every team, including tennis, basketball, soccer, cross-country track, and other teams not named in it. Their processes are families can purchase jerseys, their player packs, kits, whatever you want to call it. Parents can purchase it directly. Fundraising efforts towards collecting donations. Again, the donations then would go to the boosters for their spending. My brain is now numb. The web pages with their swag, their individual like shirts, jerseys, that's a trend, and we're going to help other coaches learn how to build these as well. That they can take the proceeds from those from the money that is collected from that. I think it's actually just those three things. I feel like there was fourth, but I missed it.
Clarification point. So if a team is collecting, let's say they say, we're asking for $150 donation or whatever you feel
A
comfortable giving.
suggested of $150
Suggested donation. That is covered in this. And we are going to buy the uniforms for the whole team.
Yes.
Versus that's possible too, versus each person has to buy their
Yeah,
uniform.
if there is a donation, the team collects the funds. And then if the team buys the jerseys out of those donations in the name of the team keeps the team, as in the coach, school, maintain possession of those uniforms. If families buy individually, they can maintain ownership of those items. It's what soccer has been doing for several years. Cross-country track has been doing. This is why we will not be moving forward with the school fee, because it would actually undermine their $224 uniform the families are purchasing, plus about $150 donation that they're giving to the team, and then what they're purchasing on their webpage. They're probably collecting potentially $400 to $500 per student or family. And if we say 175, we are cutting into that. And all the coaches that we had in this cohort, Ted, you were there as well, highly encourage we do not do a fee, and this be the process that we encourage all teams to follow.
So buying a uniform can be it's optional, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, nobody is required.
That buying a uniform is optional. You could either outright buy my child's track suit, or they can use it for the year and return it at the end. They don't need to outright buy it. It will be covered in some way.
Yeah, we are not going to deny access to sports because a family can't afford buying a jersey. They just can't keep the jersey because we're using state and federal funds or donations that were set specifically, because then they become gifts over $50. Basketball shoes are over $50. You give a student $50 shoes over $50. You've already, that's an easy way to go, hey, did you give everybody those shoes? And you now could actually challenge that. So
thank you.
So what I am moving is that teams, and this is sort of that teams, again, they'll have to complete the form that they are doing it, but we as an LSC approve teams to do those three processes. They have to submit the form, obviously, that we would then submit it to the chief, but we're pre-approving it as an LSC that the teams can do those three steps. It keeps them out of not having it approved. They still have to complete the form, but we do not have to go back to an LSC meeting. We are avoiding that 4 to 6 week vote part that we have to do as an LSC. That's part of the 4 to 6 is we meet every 4 weeks.
Right.
We are a part of that process. We are eliminating somewhat of a timeline restriction if we vote for this. That's part of that 4 to 6 is anything that is new does have to go before the LSC, which is every 4 weeks.
Can this be
So-
for clubs too?
Oh,
Clubs be added to that as well,
Good.
teams and clubs.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah, I will say we have over 50 clubs with a lot of varying levels of engagement and whatever. I really think they could benefit a lot from this. I know Miss Theus has started to say, hey, come to Basketball Bash or Quick Start, but we've got to really pump up the communication on this. So thanks, Miss
So-
Kaler.
So the one comment I have largely in out of the 3 that you mentioned, is if they're utilizing the booster club, and not knowing the method for collecting dollars, it's tough for us to approve that as an LSC because we don't know, this is something we've talked about last year, and it's a work in progress to figure out SNAP, for example, and the percentage of SNAPs taking. So if we give a blanket approval without knowing how much money out of parents' pockets is going to third parties that isn't the team, I don't even know if we have the authority to approve that, candidly, unless we say we're willing to give 20% to some third party on fundraising activities or a not to exceed amount. I'm thinking, I just don't know.
The Booster Club can take direct donations though, not through SNAP.
Right. And so if that's what we're approving and saying it's direct donations to Booster, then yeah, then there's no third party taking a cut. If there is,
Right.
if
Got
there is a third party taking a cut,
That's fair.
yeah, I know that we are trying to get this more in order. But that extra piece we've got to figure out. Again, it just comes down to approval authority.
Right, because if it goes to the Booster Club and they're using SNAP, then the third party's taking a cut. If there goes to the Booster Club directly and they're just recirculating, spitting that money right back out, like Friends of Meyer does.
Right.
Or, sorry, wrong school. Friends of Lincoln Park.
Right.
That's what,
Right.
that's, I think, what we all want to approve at this point, right? I think, and not having third parties take cuts of this.
Do we know that the boosters are taking money from the team and then running it through SNAP, or is
No,
that
what we know in examples that have come to the LSC for a couple of years or longer is that the boosters often, just I can't say every time or not every time, will use SNAP because it won't just be the parents giving dollars. It will be people across the country, that say, okay, I want to help out this team or this school.
Sure.
And so SNAP as a product has a large, presence in markets. We have yet to fully wrap our hands around it. A lot of schools use SNAP. They were the company that galloped this market some time ago.
Mhm.
But that's just like where I would say if we can amend the motion and say that this is approved if the booster is not using any outside, third parties to fundraise. If it is using an outside third party to fundraise, I think that we have to then amend it and say, as an LSC, we're willing to vote. Again, I would say that the booster should be here then presenting
Got it.
on SNAP again, as we try to clean this up.
So what, and also on that, if a teacher is doing a donation fundraiser process, the only approved CPS is GoFundMe. Teachers for, clubs and for their classroom cannot use SNAP. They are only allowed to use GoFundMe. Our teachers use GoFundMe. And they've been pretty good about that, but SNAP is not an approved, SOPA approved, SOPA being the online resource in
It's
which,
the Online Privacy Act. Yeah.
so,
For students.
so we as an entity can't, like a booster can because they're not CPS. And so that's why they can use SNAP. And that's why sometimes teams want to use SNAP. I agree. But I also know that like soccer wants to go to use SNAP for their fundraisers. So to do the donation process, because it is extremely profitable. Yes, SNAP is getting 20%, but I also get the amount of money that they're pulling in is a lot higher than just general donations.
Yeah, here's where I will tell you, I've seen it 20%. I've seen it at 23%. I've seen it at 22%. And that's why I think actually what we're required to do when it comes to approving fundraising is actually see what that is. So if it's like a blanket, approval and we just say, and again, I'm not a fan of SNAP taking so much money. But taking that aside, that bias I would say then as an LSC, we should say like a not to exceed amount, like of 25% going to a third party. If we are trying to formalize this, then I'd create a not to exceed, right? I still get all squirmish and thinking about this.
It's a lot of
Um,
money. that
Right.
they're
It's
taking.
a huge
Yeah.
amount. Now, again, my understanding is that it's not necessarily coming from the parents here all the time. It's coming from, folks from around the country. But we don't know. So if that's something that you think maybe we do a not to exceed, or maybe we revisit this in September with that information.
What I would say for this meeting and this vote, because I know soccer wants to use Snap. And but I know that like tennis, basketball, and track cross country are asking for just general donations. But I know soccer wants to do Snap. To not delay things further that's part of our previous conversation. I would highly encourage we approve it now, and maybe we could maybe make an amendment to our vote at the next meeting. At this point, I would like teams to be able to do that. So if in 2 weeks swim goes, hey, we want to do a donation, we can start on that. And we're not delaying the 4 to 6 that we were just talking. It's closer to the 2 to 4 that you're talking about, because it's already approved as an LSC.
And then this is where I'd say that, like, if we amend it with a not to exceed percentage,
Yep.
I'm in total dark space right now.
Yep.
Because I don't know if the swim team is going to get charged 22% and the soccer team gets charged 19%. Like those are the types of things, not knowing the arrangements, that seems unfair to families
Sure.
when they donate, how much money is actually going to the team.
Do you move to, so I believe did I make a movement? Did I move to approve that already?
I don't necessarily think you made a motion. That's
Okay.
why I'm just,
Okay.
I'm reacting.
So
to-
prior to a move, then I can, since there's no need to amend it, since I haven't made the motion. I move that we approve, teams' independent purchase of resources, donations, to support teams. And if used by a third party, not in excess of 25%, which I also cringe. And third, online selling of like merch, and the profit percentage from them for our teams. I'll try to get more information and clubs. Yeah, athletic teams and clubs.
Here a second.
Sure.
Thank you, Ms. Hennick. All those in favor of approving this? Okay, unanimous.
All right, and I told you this was
Energetic.
this is a heavy financial one, and this is what we knew would be a heavy financial one because it's the start of the year. This is the final one.
I have one other question regarding independent resources. You talked about the teams being able to, have online web pages to sell stuff, whatever. I'm just curious, does the school support or want to standardize where they do that, how they do that as part of the Lincoln Park website? Do we care if they're setting up stuff elsewhere? Do we want it to embed it within lincolnparkhs.org?
Let me right now we're the
Because before
team.
we start heading there and letting people go, it would be nice to provide some guidance and direction. Maybe there's just a template and they could plug it in and we don't start having like a thousand flowers blooming.
This is something we're trying to different
we
teams
don't-
are doing different, have different sponsors. That's actually the next thing. Like soccer uses Nike, so they have a Nike platform. Basketball is going, my proposal would be to move forward with New Balance. That's a New Balance platform. So it's not as simple, and that's New Balance is the one that is giving the 40% back and a 50% code for families that use it. We're trying to build that up, and we can then start norming it. Ted was in the meeting as we're talking about potentially going, what I'm about to present, to where we norm maybe one, we actually have a sponsorship for our entire school. So those are some of the next steps that will evolve out of this. The proposal I'm about to present next is that basketball, I move forward a 3-year sponsorship from New Balance. And so with New Balance, in that the players get these full packs. Families will be able to buy them directly, just like soccer, but it's at a substantially reduced cost for the sponsorship. The team gets $1,000 from New Balance every year for purchasing resources that they need. New Balance sponsors the boys and the girls for specific tournaments sponsored by New Balance at no cost to the school. What we have to do is we buy approximately $11,000 worth of jersey packs. And again, the parents are buying them with the $250. So it's a 3-year commitment to be able to do that, but it's also additional funds and resources. Because again, we're talking about potential somewhere around 80 some odd jersey packs. If you just think about the cost of jerseys, bags, basketball shoes, individual, like just the cost is very inexpensive for a team. Again, we aren't going to be funding it. It would go through the booster, through the parents buying their jerseys directly, and through the donation process that we just voted on. But the decision is, do we move forward with New Balance? I do not see a reason not to at all. It brings additional funding and resources to it. But this is something in which we talked about with other coaches. Soccer is using Nike, and we're going to try to leverage Nike for a couple of years for soccer to get to a point that if we can say one of these sports groups wants to sponsor our entire school, and now you have buying power of $300,000 or $200,000. What does that look like in reduced costs, benefits for our team, sponsorships? New Balance is really trying to help our basketball team, and we will present on that, not this meeting, probably at the next, in going to I believe it's California, for a tournament that New Balance is helping sponsor our basketball team go to.
What does the CPS Sports provide any kind of advice or guidance on best practices with this? Like, are there forms? Are there RFPs, like requests for proposals we'd send out? Are there like protocols in place? There's got to be something, I'm assuming.
You think?
Yeah.
Any contract has to go through law. And so law, why I'm talking to the LSC about it, if you're just like flat no, then we will not continue to like push things through law. These teams are sponsored throughout Chicago. So this isn't so yes, there is a process. It does require law. It requires approval of LSCs to be able to move forward with it. And I will, my signature will not be on anything that's not approved by law.
Right. And we have to sign, we have to approve your signature on something like this.
Yes.
You know, so then you'd be going to law, presenting it to New Balance or whatnot, and then you'd be presenting it back to here.
Correct.
And we'd be saying, yes or no, we don't approve you signing this, because the actual T's and C's, the terms and conditions of the agreement, we might not be comfortable with. It might
Sure.
be like, you know, yeah, any number of caveats that New Balance creates. So is that what you're going to try to create a motion for then, is to continue the conversation
Yes.
and go to law?
Yeah. And then I can send it out to you, because technically, yes.
So can we have, you know, speak in grand generalizations? I mean, New Balance isn't going to do anything that doesn't benefit New Balance. So if we could have, you know, the pros and cons listed of what for our students and for our school, that would be a good thing, rather than talking in sweeping generalizations.
You got
And
it.
if it's great, it's great, but I think we need more
Yeah.
information.
I mean, just to reinforce that, it's not appropriate in my view to vote for something, a 3-year deal with a couple of headlines. Like, I'd like to see a
Right.
proposal, timeline, roles, expectations, financials, benefits. Because I think there's some great questions being asked, like, you know, if we had $300,000, what could we do with that? Well, I don't know. What would that do to fees? I'd just like a little more concreteness to the plan. I'm all for other sources of funding. That's great. But I also wonder, soccer's doing Nike and basketball's doing New Balance. Well, do we get Adidas next? Like, that seems to create some just transaction costs for the school. Can we get more economies of scale if someone does everybody? You know, I don't know enough, and maybe we're too early on in the process, but I'm definitely not comfortable voting for something without a clear proposal.
Well, this is like where we might be in a situation where, again, there's got to be some kind of procedural protocol, because what I think Dr. Steinmiller is looking for is just our general, I don't even know if we have to do this as a motion, but our general, just say, yeah, the scope looks like interesting to us. Continue on this process. Because again, like legally, he can't, and law can't go forward. Like, one of the few approvals we have in the state law is that anything that exceeds $10,000 in value, you know, even if it's over 3 years or if it's over 1 year, et cetera, the principal can't sign, doesn't have the authority to sign without LSC approval. So that's why I'm bringing up that, like, we have to see the contract again.
Yeah, but I'd also just like to see a proposal in PowerPoint before I see a 48-page contract, you
That
know?
Brad's going to read for us.
Yeah, that Brad will, you could provide an interpretation, but, you know, just something that we know what we're getting into. Yeah, I do appreciate the innovativeness and the creativity. There has to be some clarity on what it is.
So basically, you're just asking that we allow you to move forward with continuing to see what this looks like.
Yeah, because this is I just got this. I mean, so I'm again, you asked about, hey, 4 to 6 weeks. I got this less than 4 to 6 weeks. And this is also part of the conundrum. Because if we don't move forward soon, they don't have these jerseys at the beginning of the season. And so I agree with you, but like the pushback I got earlier was, hey, how do we make this move faster? And now I'm getting the opposite, which is which I completely understand. So please, no, and that's not a comment on anything it's how to find a balance with this.
Right. And I just want to speak to the fact that we have asked you to streamline things. We have asked you to be proactive about things. And there is going to be a period of time where there's going to be a lot of growing pains in terms of getting from, we're just starting this. I mean, I'm still like, how have we been functioning without any, like what in God's name went on, right? Like we have soccer that's got Nike sponsoring them. How did that happen? I have no idea. So I think that we also need to recognize, like, if we want to move in this direction, there are going to be some trips and falls along the way. And we, as an LSC, have to be flexible and open to the fact that we are trying to put things in place that we as an LSC have been asking to be put in place. So it can't just happen yesterday, even though we'd all like it to have happened yesterday.
And please, I totally agree with you. We need to move fast. We also need to move slow. And so I'm just showing just a general proposal. I am not asking us to approve it right now, but I think this is something we may need to come back in a special meeting so that we can move this forward. So it is like, how do we find this? Like, I hope my statement, I promise that was not meant to come across. If it came across like I was sliding, that was not meant to.
No.
So, but this is kind of like the layout of what we're trying to do, which is hosting national events. They're going to help sponsor, recruit, like things for our elementary school, like Martin Luther King Day, President's Day. These are the things that are laid out in it. Again, this has not been approved by law. I'm not signing it, but I want to make sure that these are the things I can start moving forward with as an LSC. As you see that these are the promo items, like all the free items that come with being a part of it. All of them, the jerseys that are associated with it, and the breakdown of everything becomes into like $250 a player to be able to then cover the entire cost of what this is. And these are then specific programs for the different games in which our athletes would be able to participate. So this is a lot. And I'm just saying, I'd like to pursue and move forward with this. But if you are like, no, then
if I can make a comment, I would just say, I would appreciate maybe a special meeting that just talks about this. And towards what Amy was commenting earlier about soccer, I think soccer should also talk about what their Nike deal is.
They're not sponsored. They just use Nike.
Okay. So there's no benefit they're getting back.
They're going to start asking Nike similar questions because this is extremely beneficial. They're fronting everything. Okay. All the costs are through purchase in this.
Because like, as you can imagine, sorry to interrupt you, Dr. Steinmiller, like this would be good if we would have given the heads up so that we could, I bet the basketball team would want to be here, for example, or at least the basketball coach, saying this would be the benefit. It would warrant putting in the agenda specifically and talking about it.
So it could be informal. I don't need a vote, but as long if at this point LSC feels comfortable with me pushing this forward with law, seeing what this can look like, I would ask that we do set up a special meeting to approve it. And it could be that this could be the only item. Would be New Balance and this basketball approval, but it's something that I want to be able to push through with law.
Yeah, I mean, I support that. I just want to say, like, I've heard a lot of bad things about sponsorships, like Nike and whatnot, and there are different kinds of Nike and leagues you play in, and not always great things. I don't know if they're true or not, but just informally, I've heard that in Chicago basketball. I see bullets there that says, support the recruitment of middle school students. I don't think we're in the recruiting business. So
that would be for our 8 elementary feeder schools. They would help sponsor events and give shirts out.
Okay. But I'm just saying the use of recruitment is a little concerning. And then some stipulations look like it said players must practice only in New Balance every practice, like things like that. Are we cool with that? I don't know. I definitely want to learn more, but to Amy's point, this is a big learning curve for us. And maybe it's no big deal and I'm like overreacting to those, but I do think like something to read in advance and then come discuss would be great.
I get it. Totally, I completely respect that. Again, the coach asked me to present, so I am. And I know he was going to try to be here and couldn't. So
I will piggyback and just say it is exciting because we all know the basketball program's gone through a lot over the last few years. And to be at a point where a national brand wants to be involved with our team, especially after the last few years of the ups and downs we've had. I mean, it's exciting. And so again, like I think the comments that we're making all in all is just more out of, it's new territory. Let's make sure there's enough people involved. And I bet we would have gotten some folks that wanted to make public comments, on this, or maybe they don't like New Balance, maybe they like another for whatever it might be, but it just would have given the heads up to the community.
I agree. That is all I have for, and it was a lot, but we knew this was going to be heavy.
Thank you. So that finishes the budget subcommittee. Our next item is outside affiliated committee reports, and we just have the Friends of Lincoln Park High School.
I don't believe they have.
Anyone here? No?
I think they meet next Tuesday.
Okay, yeah, I think Tuesday, August 15th, for anyone interested at 6 or 6:30 is when they meet. Great. Next is celebrations for LPHS. Are there good things happening that people want to highlight or talk about that they've seen of late? I'll say one for facilities on Howe Street. A very old rusty door was painted this summer and looks brand new. So it's very nice for the neighbors who look across the street at the school. Instead of seeing rust, they see that. So thanks to Mr. Cantori.
Is there?
Not really. No, I'm commenting that I do think I'm going to try to do a celebration about painting this wall at some point.
Ms. Kaler.
Hoping we can spend just as much time on academics and curriculum. But I hope it's okay, Ms. Tookie, that despite a few years of difficulty with students and moving them forward because of COVID, remote learning, the IB diploma program scores, history and English are once again above the international average, way above. So, and psychology. So, there's always, and I'm going to just say that because I'm the head of the history diploma program. So,
And Ms. Kaler, that was ahead of the international average in the IB testing, you're saying, or what? Okay.
the diploma program.
Diploma. Okay,
Yes.
great.
Yeah. So I think that's huge.
Thank you. Is there some data? We should that should be like a newsletter item or something.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
requested it a couple of weeks ago. I still need to get it. And we can get it up.
All right. Great. Great. Well, we'll take that as an action. Anyone else? I think this is not a public comment period, unfortunately, but sometime later, we'd love to hear for the celebrations. No, there are just some people raising their hand and it's not an open session right now. Anything else going on that people would like to highlight?
I'll bring some stuff in the principal's report.
Okay, great.
Oh, God.
Speaking of which, our next item is the principal's report. So Dr. Steinmiller, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. And for the most part, it's we have very specific items in it. So I will focus on those. Let me bring this up. Right.
Oh, I know.
All right. There's some things that knowing today was gonna be heavy on budget finances. There are things that we'll then focus on in September meeting. I'm gonna highlight them, but not go into depth with them. Key updates, reminders, and some celebrations to go along with it. Quick start started today with our freshmen and our sophomores. Of course, our freshmen show up in mass like normal, which is always great. And then of course, our sophomores trickle in all day. But a very successful quick start. I really appreciate just students, teachers, and staff who are coming in during the summer to help support that. I mean, it's truly amazing. And it is just and my administrative team for their support. I mean, in organizing and leading that work, I really appreciate it. Tomorrow we'll have then our juniors and seniors. We do have some vaccination activities and different things going on for our students. On Friday, we also even have a clinic coming in to do physicals. So we try to, I mean, it's a lot packed in. And it's been in the quick start memos that have been going out over all through the summer about just events that are going on and information. Teachers' first day is next Wednesday. You may hear some teachers in the city on Monday. We flexed our days, so we have 2 more days. We have our back to school bash on the 17th. Students' first day is going to be on the 21st. So those are some big things. We've had an amazing summer, and I'll talk about those as some of our celebrations. This is the norm. Everybody has seen these things as I present them, but these are things that we're always going to be flexible and responsible to expectations of supporting our students. We are shifting our CIWP into the instructional core, focusing on curriculum and instruction. I will talk about the CIWP briefly because we will approve the final CIWP in September. It has to be approved by the 15th. We've aligned our professional learning calendar to these 3 priorities. But for time, I like to make sure that we're going to present it in September in the formal process, that we do it and you get to see the full length of it. I appreciate our teams and our teachers. I know, Ms. Kaler, you've been at a lot of them. I don't think you've missed a meeting from the curriculum and instruction focus. Like you've been really, maybe I don't, but you've been fully engaged.
Single one, I believe.
Yep. So I appreciate the full support of our students who participated, our parents who have participated in this, and our teachers. And building out our post-secondary, our connectedness and well-being are our 3 priorities. Yesterday at a network meeting, we're reviewing these at a district, at our network level. And even in our processes, we have a living and breathing CIWP process, not just a task completion CIWP or an absolutely incomplete CIWP, and feel that these are our right priorities. And you'll hear more about those as we put them to approval for next LSC meeting. Moving forward, things that are taking place as an IB school. We focus on being the premier community neighborhood school, and we have selective enrollment type programs. They're magnet that are on par with other group. We're seeing an increased enrollment. We anticipated, basically our budget is founded on 2,069 students, and we are currently at 2,104. And so we've actually seen, we expect some balancing. So I want to kind of gauge expectations on that. School has not started. There is some people show up on day 1, and then some people transfer on day 1. So we will give you a more concrete number in September when students are physically in the building. But this is extremely promising as we have yet to take a single person for our IBDP, our advanced college prep program. The only students that have been taken from any type of waitlist, and it's been a handful, is for our performing arts. And that is it. And I'm telling you, a handful. And so in the past, we have a wait list of over 2,000 plus students. And sometimes you take 50, you take 30, you take 40. We haven't taken anybody.
Can you say that again? I missed it.
We have a wait list for students. Okay. And that's traditionally as a school, you balance out to maintain your numbers so that at the start of the school year, you have 500 some odd students. We haven't. And I think that we've also seen an increased activity from our feeder schools of our elementary schools. And that's something we've been very intentional about, building that partnership. We're seeing more students from our attendance area enroll. And enroll within the last day, week, or 2. And so that's offsetting any need for us to pull from a wait list. So, but again, we have a lot of really positive things going within our learning community. Again, we're going to focus on that post-secondary success for all our students. I'll present that more on CIWP, and I think it'll make sense in some of our critical goals as we're talking about that within our September CIWP. And you'll see that have been finding increased success, and you're going to see that we want to have even more. And these are things that I'll talk about a little bit more, but again, our next week is our professional learning for our teachers. So in September, I'll share what that looked like as we finalize some things with our teams. But it's going to be this similar structure to what we've had in the past. For example, we have our planning meetings set up. This is just an example of our cadence or structure for our meetings with our teachers. From department meetings, their curriculum team meetings, this is the way it's been for the last 3 years in person-ish and 4 years. So maintaining consistency with the structures that we have for our teacher meeting models, which leads to our professional learning calendar. And this is a document we're going to, it's kind of a preview. I'll share with the teachers during our next week to lay out what this looks like. But this is our calendar for the entire school year of what do our meetings look like? What are our patterns or structures for example, all our flex days? You know, we went through our PPC and our about what these are PD days. Sorry, what are all our PDs laid out? Half of them are principal directed, half are teacher directed. This actually spreads out, making sure we have principal directed so we can. Our last meeting with teachers was in February. The rest were all teacher directed. So after February, there was no opportunity to engage teachers in learning or planning. This time we have it spread out over the course of the year. You'll see that one of the things that we've been focused on is assessment dates. And what does that impact? What does that have an impact on that week, on your instruction that week? We have everything laid out for the year. It is embedded within this professional learning calendar. This is a set aside so you can see the dates. Anytime something is new or changes, you'll see a new indicator towards it. We have those ranges. We had this TBD every time. Now it's filled with actual dates, SLT responsibilities, our overview of what our team meetings should look like. Flex days, again, what are flex days? These were voted again by the PPLC on what the structures for our flex days. That's why we don't meet Monday and Tuesday in the last day of the school year, which is a Monday, which makes no sense anyway. And so these are our flex days. And how all that works is that all fits within this calendar. So this is every week, what every week looks like in the department focus in their meetings, what their curriculum team, they're working on their unit planning. This is every department. It's a TIA focus on the 7th and 14th. It is a target instructional area meeting on the 21st. We're talking about the entire year is laid out. You also see every one of our drills. We have to do mandated district drills. They are embedded in this calendar. Allergen drills in January 16th and 19th. Every drill is in here. Every test is in here. So we know when we have any tests. We know when grades are due. You're seeing, again, fire evacuation drill, when grades must be posted. So all of this is, again, reach performance tests. These are things that apply our ISA testing windows, progress reports. So I just want to see that this is all baked in. You will also see all of our assemblies. We already have pre-assemblies for our grade levels where we're meeting with all of our freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors. That is in here. So every teacher knows when there's going to be an assembly for the entire school year. Beginning of the school year, like our quarters or semesters, all of that is built into this. You can see on the 30th and 31st, we're having our student grade level assemblies. So any teacher in their planning can now plan using this entire document to know when there is any potential interruptions to their classrooms. And so this will be a living and breathing document that we want to make sure that we're referencing when we put our newsletter out in communication. We'll reference this. Here's our 2 weeks in advance. Here's the link to the calendar for the year. 2 weeks in advance, calendar for the year. We have this all built out. I'm very excited about this, the work that's been put into this, but with teacher feedback from our instructional leadership team, department chairs, and actually PPLC when it forms at the beginning of the year. Again, as we're thinking about CIWP, I think it's a great way to also give additional feedback to it.
Ms.
I
Kaler.
don't want to interrupt.
No,
Okay.
that's good. Yeah.
So there's still this in terms of professional development. In our last CIWP meeting, Ms. Crown and I were working on professional development. So, and that is how we're going to move, obviously, students and instruction with teachers. But it looks like the ILT has already determined what our professional development will be. So could you clear that up a little bit for me?
Thank you. Great question. Thank you. That's a really, really great question. So what you see in some of these, they're like topics like unit planning. Like we know we need to work on our unit planning as a department, our focus, especially with our IB about our evaluations coming up. We need to make sure it's authentic, not just submitting unit plans. So we know we have to embed that in it. we have us again, our series that you see here, like our professional learning days that we have set up. We have a rough draft in which the CIWP and the work that's taking place there will help inform the details of it. So we've carved out time. Some things are very specific and some are not, and they're left to be flexible so that when CIWP planning team, PD planning, that they have that flexibility. But they also know that time is reserved for them. So that if automatically it was all social emotional learning and you're like, well, we have to do curriculum instructions as part of our CIWP, you cannibalized the entire year. We've already carved that niche. It just isn't, it's penciled in. It isn't put in ink yet. And for example, the group you're working with will put it into ink.
Yes, thank you.
That makes sense to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is, again, a lot of work going into our professional learning calendar for the year. Just again, will help in planning, going back to the theme of being proactive, proving things in advance, getting things in advance so people have vision of what is going on for the year. Additional items. This sounds like weird that I have to bring it up, but I bring it up all the time because sometimes people aren't sure, like, when does the school day actually, like, when are we actually starting? These kind of things. But we have our normal our Wednesday is a shorter day. It is not our Wednesday is not a full day. We have it flexed. So just everybody is aware that we do start like our 7:55 time. Big question of the day is programming. So I want to make sure to talk about programming with everybody. Been very intentional about it. We've been building a lot of systems to help improve placement of students. A major push for diagnostics to make for our freshmen. Our sophomores, juniors, and seniors were able to go through teacher feedback. We're able to go through disagreement forms, placement. Our freshmen, it's different. Our freshmen come in and there's programs of study that they're coming into, but then how do we ensure that they're going into the appropriate classes to support them? Even within our DP program for our students who will be in their DP program, junior and senior year, we have like 3 different math classes. Correct me if I'm wrong, 3 different like types of, I wouldn't say math class, but 3 different types in which our students can enter and then be supported over their next 4-year period. So we've put the diagnostic in place and really pushed to have our students complete that. And not only that, students who didn't complete it, we've been looking at their HSAT scores, their GPAs, to say, this looks like a student who would potentially find success, even if they weren't. Now, we push diagnostics. I appreciate our team and our teachers for like really analyzing that. Mr. Bliss, the math department chair, he helped even look in at the HSAT scores for those who didn't do diagnostics, say this would probably be a better placement for any of our students. So we have done a lot for our incoming freshmen, which adds a lot of complexity also to programming our freshmen, as some of this stuff is even, I mean, we have people that are enrolling today, yesterday. And so it's a rolling process. Over 1,900, it's actually a way better number than 1,900, have full schedules. And I'm going to clarify what I mean full schedule is they have requests, it filled their requests, they're in those classes. We have students who do have gaps in their schedules because we didn't fill it. You can fill and just drop a class in because it didn't work out. It wasn't, and then I could say 2,104 students have full schedules. That is not what we did. What we did do is left them blank so that the counselor and the student can meet to talk about it. And for the most part, it tends to be around electives. It's this drama class. Well, no, you're a DP student. The drama class doesn't work within your schedule. You're gonna have to make a decision. And we're trying, our programmer is working to try to actually work some of these things out still. If there's a way, if going in on Monday, it means, you know what, if we actually did this, it may actually be able to salute the solution. She's working on that right now. We do have about 100 students, freshmen specifically, with no schedules because they did not submit their preferences. And I'm saying we put multiple efforts into it. Today and tomorrow are the last 2 days in which we are giving one last opportunity for them to make their own selections. On Monday, we are making the selections for them. But we want to still give our students some voice in their classes. And so I think the number is actually 118 to be specific. But so there are students, freshmen today went to get their schedule and it was entirely blank. And we said, you need to select your cap. And there was a QR code. They were able to then They were able to QR code for freshmen to be able to start selecting their classes. And my psychic ability says I think about half of them were able to do that. So we are now going to have students who are going to have their classes by their choice instead of us doing it for them.
And that QR code was the QR code we filled out back in the spring,
Yes.
if you were an incoming.
Yeah, in
freshman.
spring, we had multiple sessions in which students could do the QR code. They selected their classes in the spring. These are the 100 remaining students who didn't, and about half of them now have done it.
Yeah.
So we won't select it for them. Our programmer is now building their schedules.
Are those 100 students, how many of them though were still deciding if Lincoln Park was going to be their choice school? It wasn't that they neglected it. They just didn't know if they wanted
I
to
honestly
come.
don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, and it could even be that some of those freshmen may be still holding out for like something else. I really don't know. But here's the benefit of not doing this. Our students who follow the process, they are in the classes they want to be in. We don't have, sometimes we do have, like, let's say we had 20 students who got into, their heart is on selective enrollment school A, and 20 students go there. If they are in a class that's full, some of our students who know are going to come here may not have their first choice for an elective. They may not have their first choice of this. They're not filling classes that students who will eventually take it. So they will have last selection, and it is first come, first serve at this point. But the priority is for those who have been on this entire process. Yes.
Reading through the minutes of the July special session for LSC, Mr. Smith asked what date the scheduling would be going live, and you said today, August 10th. Is that for students, teachers, everyone? Because I don't have my schedule in Aspen.
Live for students.
Okay.
So students at Quick Start, it's also, there's a couple benefits for the way we have this structured for Quick Start. One, it has students come to Quick Start. They can get their schedule. It also, as I'm about to say, it gives us opportunities we have a week and a half till school starts to preview schedules. If there is an issue, we have time to fix it. And in Build, you can do a lot more manipulation to classes. Once you what is called commit a schedule in Aspen, where it becomes visible to teachers. Yeah, do it.
Okay.
So that'll happen before teachers show up.
Like
I'm not gonna. I don't want to.
Wednesday at 9 o'clock.
No. Before teachers walk in the building. I would like to say Monday, but if Dr. Burstein's like, I need Tuesday morning, I'm giving her Tuesday morning. But when teachers show up, they will have their rosters, they will have their classes. And they will know exactly what's going on.
So like a student would be able to see what classrooms they're in for every one of their periods.
Yeah.
If they were to look today.
Yeah, students can see on a piece of paper, but students cannot see online. So it's only that piece of paper, but this again forces our students to come to Quick Start, our parents to sign up there's a lot of leverage for it. It also gives us, we're able to see red flags that I'm bringing up here today.
So students know maybe if I'm their teacher, but I don't know yet if they're my student.
Yeah. And there's a possibility, like, I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but like if a student is one of the students I'm about to talk about, there may be an adjustment and that student may not have you as a teacher because we need to adjust it too.
And when the commit button is clicked for these schedules or whatever, that's when the Google Classrooms are also populated overnight, or in whatever process IT does it through.
Yep.
Okay, so those are still.
So what,
pending. Thank you.
I apologize.
Mm.
So I have a couple of questions. Do you want to do yours and I'll come back? to mine?
Yeah, so just really quickly, I know you mentioned that schedules aren't available online yet. Do you know what day that those will be available?
It'll be Tuesday because Wednesday our teachers show up. So I can say by Tuesday. I'm actually hoping earlier, but I don't want to overcommit. Okay. So what you'll see again, freshmen, we're already seeing half of the freshmen put their selections in, so they'll start getting full schedules. DL students. So just to kind of explain, even in this process, our DL students are in a class that is a general education coded class.
DL is diverse learners, right?
Thank
Okay.
you. So when our diverse learning students get into a class, they're all coded. I'm gonna use like English. I'm making the numbers up because I can't remember them. 1001 or 1115666. It's the same class code for a class that has just a general ed teacher. It's the same class code for a co-taught class, and it's the same class code for what would be called a self-contained or instructional class. Those classes have 8 to 13 students because it's the same curriculum. It's the same code. what students will see, and this is what's they'll see on Tuesday when it goes live, is those codes will be converted into CTT will have a code taught class will be added to a coding. And then what you'll also see, and students don't see this, you see the code taught, only see the gen ed teacher. You don't see the LBS 1 or diverse learning teacher who's in that. It just doesn't show on their schedule, but it is in Aspen and you would be able to see who the other people are. What you'll also see is the instructional, and it's self-contained instructional classes. Again, that is just with a diverse learning teacher. That's with like up to eight students, or up to 13 if there is a SICA or assistant in that class. It's the same class code, same class title. What we end up putting on is a code to say that's what it is. In some places, we have placeholders of teacher names because they're new teachers and they're not in the system. And so there are things that will on Tuesday be live then for live for all the students and live for all the teachers. And then teachers who are not in the system will have a TBD. They're here, they're hired, but they aren't showing an Aspen. So that's, and on Monday, I am meeting with Miss Wagner, who is our case manager, and Miss Geekus, our diverse learning chair. We are reviewing every single one of our students one by one to ensure codes have been coded over appropriately. They're in their appropriate classes. It is entirely structured. So we have that laid out and that's planned out for us. We just wanted to make sure that they were all where they need to be. And so that's why, again, when we have people pick up their schedules, we do also have a code that if somebody feels like, hey, that's not right, that they can scan it out. We've only had 57 of these submissions so far. That's one of the other points. 57 submissions needing some support. It may have, I'll say like, it may be like 60 at this point if somebody did it now. And 10 of these actually, or actually maybe more at this point, but 10 of these were the 100 freshmen who just scanned the wrong thing when actually they just needed to submit their document, and they did that one first. So really it's more like 47 who need support. We do have about 100 students who have gaps and we didn't fill them. So that would be, for example, a student would see no first period class. That is an indicator to us that we need to work with their counselor, to work with the student, to ask, what's your decision? That means there's a conflict that we can't resolve. Our Dr. Burstein is working actually to resolve it, to see if there's something we can tweak that we have just missed. But if not, it may mean a decision of, I don't get to take art, I have to take drama. Or it tends to be involved with diploma program because the diploma classes, there's a lot of single classes and they are structured and we can't move them around. Like we're talking about 30 students not having a math class or 3 or 4 students not having drama. And those are decisions that we aren't just going to make for the students. We're going to talk so that when anybody picks it up and they see a missing schedule, there's still a QR code, but our counselors will know that they'll have to have that conversation with the students.
Okay, that was a lot. I know that this is a big deal for you and it has been. I'm speaking from through a teacher's lens. And many teachers have either texted me today or emailed me or called me. I'm wondering why, when our last meeting, you had stated, I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that teachers' programs would be on Aspen and so would students be on Aspen. It's not even there yet. It's not even, nothing's populating. And I can't tell, other high schools already have it populated. They're up, they're going. And it's frustrating for me and I want to be supportive as well. The DL students, and you can speak to this, students with IEPs that are already in a, potentially stressful situation and their parents are emailing me or calling me and saying, they have 4 classes on their paper schedule, but 2 of them are wrong. And they signed up at the beginning of the year, or beginning of the year, when they were told to. This is our most vulnerable population that's already afraid to come to school. We as teachers need to know who our students are. Those 3 days that you have us And yes, professional development is important, but what is most important from our perspective is to have those kids in front of us, to have our class rosters, to look who has 504s and IEPs, to start differentiating. That's what we do. And now you're telling us potentially Tuesday, right? It's when it's going to populate. And that's all I have to say on that. If Dave, you want to step in, I'm hearing a lot of positive, and it should be positive, but I think that there's a lot that's a mess here that I'm not hearing yet. Okay. I don't know what, there's no question there for you. I guess I just want to tell you this should have been in the bag 4 weeks ago.
I would say if anybody has a concern, please have them reach out to me directly. I'm happy to help talk and resolve that with any teacher.
There's the question, well, I mean, that's why we're here, right? Our job is to make sure that our community is supported. And we were told that this would be, in the bag. So what do parents do at this point? What do students do? How do we know that on Tuesday, I'm not going to have, again, 35 kids in one class and 10 in another? That's how it's been year after year. And again, I don't want to dwell on the past, but it seems to me that there could be a problem.
As for I'm going to clarify on the Aspen, it's in Aspen. We couldn't share the schedule with our kids if this wasn't in Aspen. It's not, it's in build mode, and that's a view in Aspen. When it's in committed, that's when it becomes visible to outside people in Aspen, but it is in Aspen. So people build schedules where it's not in the system. It's all in the system. That's where Dr. Burstein works. And it's all in there. So she's now making the adjustments, addressing these points right here. I feel like we have a very good plan of next steps. Again, from a DL standpoint, we're going through each individual going through each kid's, I've been talking with several, looking at classes. I mean, there are adjustments that we are going to be able to tweak over the next couple of days and over the weekend to help them even improve it further. But I hear your point. But on Wednesday, teachers will see their schedules. They'll know their kids. They'll have their rosters.
And they'll be correct.
Yeah. And I mean, on Monday, I mean, at this point, we have the students with gaps are the students that we are working to resolve and get them into their alternatives right now. I know Dr. Burstein will be reaching out to individual students to help try to resolve that. But there are conversations that officially teachers don't start till Wednesday. I can't ask counselors. I can't ask teachers for feedback officially until then. I'm informed we've had people helping, but that is their first day. And that's when I can have my counselors support the students officially on Wednesday. Right now, hope to have that be a very small group. I want to be very clear though on one thing. We are not just changing schedules because of requests. Like, I want my lunch 5th period. I want to be in that AP class. We had a process that was in place with disagreement forms that we are not going to change with that. Like, those things were teacher feedback that we're not adjusting. The diagnostics informed placement. We have, again, a lot of systems that have been put in place that over the course of the year that have helped really inform a really solid schedule. Yeah.
Last year, we know, like, my hope and my confidence from hearing this is that it's much improved from last year, but obviously the scars of last year are still present. The counselors last year, had a billboard up that directed people, if they had questions last year, to, I think, an email address. And so I just wanted to note, with the students that don't have schedules, especially, I mean, it's summertime, so you might not, Ms. Burstein might not get in touch with people, and diverse learners, there might be other issues going on or whatnot. So will the counselors who if you can comment about when they return as well, if it's like the 18th or so, but what's going to happen? Is there going to be the billboard? Hopefully not, because we were very concerned about that last year. Is there going to be a way for every student to sign up for a time period that they can go and review? So if a kid has 3 periods, in a row, let's say, that are blank, they know at least that, like, there's a 15-minute time period when they know they exactly are going to the counselor to talk.
Yeah, that's actually the form for the 57 schedule support submissions. That's what the counselors it would have been the group last year. That's the total sum at this point of 1,000 students. So we've had our 57 submissions. Like I said, there could be 60 by now, but of 1,000, every kid who picked up a schedule, that's where our numbers are. And then we go to address that right away. But I already know, like I said, we're working through the 100 students with gaps. So that should not be a bunch of students who need, it's just like we're focused on 100
But
kids.
Dr. Simon, one thing that you noted earlier is that like the way to get the schedules would be paper of showing up to Quick Start. So you might have 1,000 kids or whatnot that once they see it.
Yeah.
I doubt you're gonna have 1,000 kids, but you know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be more than 57.
Those 57 are aligned like with the gaps, right? So we're and this is a good way for us. The benefit of doing this and doing Quick Start a week and a half in advance of the school year is you have a week and a half to make adjustments. You give out we have time to be able to make these any adjustments that do come up that we have time. If we did Quick Start Monday and Tuesday, our turnaround is shorter. Right? We did Quick Start Thursday or Friday, we have no room for anything. So this gives us just time to, and so those submissions, like we're looking at it and going, oh, hey, this is a simple fix, or this class didn't make and doesn't and the kid didn't put in alternatives. Those are sometimes the things. So this isn't we're not talking about mass amounts of students with fillers. There are 0 fillers in here. 0. No auditoriums, no go see your counselor, no see this. It's just, and I'm talking it's about 100. And we still have a week and a half to resolve.
So just to clarify, the only reason the schedules aren't in Aspen is because you can't edit them after they're committed?
So what we can do in Build, for example, I could have 150 students who need to, I need to move from here to here.
Mhm.
You highlight them, you send them to the class, and boom, they're all there. And it moves them instantly. When it's live, you have to go all 150 students one at a time, open up their schedule, create the thing, click which period, manually move it over. It's about a 3 to 4 minute process per student. When it's in Build, it's a 3 to 4 minute process potentially for 150 kids at a time. And so you can do batches. We can narrow it all down to diploma students, down to all the band students. We can review and make if there's an adjustment, you have a lot more flexibility. So it gives the programmer more flexibility to make some adjustments.
Okay, just a couple questions. So if I'm a teacher at Lincoln Park High School, do I know the classes I'm teaching this year?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if I'm a teacher here who my students are yet.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Do I know which hours I'm teaching those classes yet?
Not yet.
Okay. Now, you would know, or Dr. Bernstein would know that would be available, but we can't publish it or put it in commit or whatever. So we are, and this is just a theoretical question, but for 2,000 students, we're printing it out so they can see it. For the 150 teachers, would it make sense to print out for them? And in case they wanted to come and pick it up, they could see or not?
Not necessarily. We could, but I'll give you an example. There is a class that we're looking at to try to see, it's a conflict. Is there a possibility still? And we're now like a single class. If we moved it to first period, what is the implication? What effect does that class have? You move one class, you unravel things. And so it's dangerous. In Build, you can do it. So you have to be careful. So we're exploring, does that create more access for some of the students with gaps? And then we talk to the teacher and go, look, this may make this class first period instead of this. We then see what happens to the other kids. And that takes time. And so what it may end up meaning is, okay, it unravels like another document of okay, we can swap these classes. Oh, that's the solution. And so there is that potential of still trying to figure those out. We could commit right now, and then it's just blocked. Teacher schedules don't change. There's no more flexibility, and all those gaps, it's absolutely no to those classes, and we need to fill it.
Okay, so it sounds like the answer is yes, we could print the schedules for teachers, but because they may change before Tuesday, it could be misleading, and then that could cause some upset on the teacher's behalf.
Yeah,
right?
one of the things is not overcommitting. It's let's not overcommit with this. We have time to actually make adjustments to it. I would have been happy if we commit today. That would have been awesome. My programmer wants more time to be able to try to tease out some individual things in a way that's better for her. then she gets that time.
But like, aren't you already committing by printing these things and giving them to the students?
We are, but there's also, so I'll give you an example of a student who their schedule was full, but they coordinated to not have lunch so they could take 8 classes. So that is a student in which their schedule will potentially change. There's a teacher and a department chair that I've been talking to about possibility of moving something around that may be a benefit for the students. So there is the possibility, yes, of some students having their schedules changed that are finished.
So we're printing them and telling them that these are the schedules, and then next week,
And so anybody,
psych, that's not it?
whose schedule who changed, Burstein, our coordinator, our programmer, will communicate, your schedule has had a change, here's your change.
Okay.
And so she's able to communicate that. So she's working with the 100 students. She's going to be communicating if somebody's schedule does change, has received one, she will
Yeah,
communicate.
But that's 100 emails. It's like, I don't know, just why do this stuff today if it's not?
Well, the 100 emails
Fine.
are, the 100 students are fairly simple because it's blank. It's blank and then it will be filled. I'm talking about if a student, Alex, let me use an example.
Yeah.
Alexander's schedule is set. And you're a student who's going to have a schedule change because if we move opera to, we don't have opera, but if we move opera to this period that you're in this class, it's going to change it for you. You're just fine. But there's 12 other students that for some, it's their IB, this class or that class won't work. And it just means that we'll have to swap your English teacher periods. You no longer have English second, you now have it fourth, you still have a full schedule, probably the same teacher. But now other students have it. That will be those unique situations.
So like we're purposefully waiting till the last possible second to share things with teachers to make sure that they're as correct as possible. But we're prematurely sending stuff out to the students that has potential to change.
It allows for those 57 submissions, like the student who has 9 periods, has 9 classes, his first period through 9th period. It's a way to like catch those things to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
Helps us avoid mistakes falling through the cracks. So by students seeing it, they know what class is there, or if there is something that to us appears right, but for some reason that they didn't fall, and that hasn't really been a case. So I'm sort of making this.
So like, could we have gotten this, like, could we have gotten to the go live date 2 weeks ago so that when we printed these things, there were no like misleadings to the students?
Our goal is to get like, yes, we want to increase that, but right now what the programmer needs and the things that we put in place.
Okay.
3 weeks ago, we made a major change, like due to hiring. Some people have certain endorsements, and it was through wellness. People have different endorsements with PE endorsement, driver's ed, and to be able to it actually required restructuring of quite a few PE classes, which actually domino effect tons of things.
Yeah. 3 weeks ago seemed like a kind of late.
But it's also
to
like
do a wholesale change like that, which makes sense on the
the
whole,
hype.
why things are still not done. Okay.
But
I don't have any other questions.
so I'll continue to keep you updated. But this is where we are at with our programming. And again, I feel like we're in a good place. Other updates, credit recovery, summer transition, freshman connection. We're awesome. Goes back into our shout outs. Our org chart, I can even talk about that a little bit more in our next, but we have an organizational chart for administrative responsibilities. I touched on that last meeting, a little bit of just like how we're making some of these shifts. Hiring, I think I have on the next slide. We have several student teachers that'll be in the building. We have over 11 residents. And the residents are through the district. They're the individuals getting their teaching endorsement. Our teachers get stipends for hosting it. We have 11. The district actually said, been working with the district on this for several years. That we've had a high success rate with our partnerships. This has happened at my previous school at here. And we usually have to pay, like find a way to like give us, there's a stipend to allocate to that teacher. The district's paying for all of them. I said, this is a tough year for us financially. I'm not going to be able to move forward with it. They said, that's fine. How about 11 people? And I said, you'll pay for it? And they said, yes. So you're going to see in our cluster, for example, we have 3 teachers. There will be 6 teachers, seven teachers in our cluster. There are going to be 4 residents. And so most of these are LBS 1, which is diverse learning teachers, which are the hardest positions to hire for in the district. We're going to have 11 We hired one of our residents from last year. We have now 11 to choose from, and we have first dibs. So this is again a way for us to create internal sustainability when it comes to hiring, especially as it pertains to diverse learning teachers. We are expanding the residency to some outside. I think there's 2 or 3. I don't want to quote it, 2 to 3 non-LBS 1, but for teacher certification through a similar residency. I believe it's like with science and math is another area in which it's sometimes difficult to find. So we will have more. So that's why I have 11 plus, because I didn't count those when I was first doing this. And I'm very excited about that. And we're building a partnership with DePaul. I'm working through an MOU contract with them of support. I'll talk more about that in the future.
Are the 11 coming from DePaul or from others?
No, this is across the city. And the individuals who tend to be in the resident program tend to be more representational of our student population. We've been intentional within our hiring process to hire people who are more representational of our student population. And I'm very proud of that and some of the shifts that we're making. I think our students deserve that. And so we should see that soon. But again, we're talking about 11 residents who also have more representation with them as well. Freshman outreach, freshman connection, contacting families with high needs, students who've been disconnected over the school year. Quick Start's been awesome so far. Back to school bash planning. We got $40,000 from the district to be able to do our back to school bash and for other items to be used at any discretion. We're not using all $40,000 for back to school bash. I'm going to let you know that right now. But we are doing with the back to school bash, some of that funding is that we're making sure that we have a sub bucket at the beginning of the year for any additional gaps. We've already brought in, we will have cadres funded by the district coming in for any recent leaves that may have happened, as you know, with the district, not with the district, but with some shifts in policy about maternity leaves and paternity leaves, that those are extended, are able to extend a longer period of time. We're just finding out about a couple of extensions like in the last day or two. And so we're bringing in some extra people to just help cover for the extra couple of weeks of extension that maybe happen, because you're not going to get a TAT for 2 to 3 weeks. But we already have some of the other hiring in place. I'll talk about those positions in just a second. Other thing is in building preparation. From a facility standpoint, internally, there's been a lot. I get a report from what our engineers are doing and the progress that they're making, like from lights to some of the critical things like plumbing and this and other stuff that is going on. There are some cosmetic things that have not been addressed. That we'll keep working on. They're on our list. There's a punch list. I meet with our engineers every Monday and we just keep working through it. It's an old building. We have a lot of stuff to work on, but we're making a lot of progress. There are also some critical things that we are not going to be able to fix that just keep getting pushed down. Our parking lot is junk, but also the sewer system underneath it is broken. And so you see the sinking, like everything's sinking, and it's a massive, massive issue. It's not just resurfacing and repainting. We'll talk about that more in facilities at future meetings. But there's a lot of those kind of things that have really been in place that our engineers have been doing a phenomenal job with, because some of the cosmetic things have not been addressed. So I just want to bring that up. Painting of, we got a door painted, but trust me, we could repaint our entire building and it probably should be repainted. But from a custodial standpoint, facilities that pertains to our engineering team and the leadership within that, our building manager has been excellent and responsive. Our custodial team is fantastic. Supervision and support of our custodial team is wanting.
Is what?
Wanting. I am left wanting. I'm not getting responsive. It's not being responsive. If we didn't have Veronica Hurd, who is one of the most amazing leaders of custodial leads of all time, we would not be in the position we are at. She's making sure that we're meeting expectations, whether or not she checks in with me. I push with the building manager, who isn't actually the direct supervisor, to help get some leverage to it. But we have been making progress, but there are things that are still not. There is an egg on a back window that still looks like junk. And so again, Ms. Hurd is leading her team to make sure that each room is set up, the floors are done. But those are some things that, again, like a punch list that is just not being addressed that should be addressed. So I just want to be very clear in building preparation that rooms will be ready. We Saturday are receiving over 200 plus new desks, student desks, and they're picking up and taking some of our broken old ones. We are making sure that they drop off desks before they take ours. 2 years ago, they picked up our desks, never delivered the old ones. And so we're having to use folding tables. They are dropping off and picking up at the same time. They said, no, that's not how we do it. We're going to pick up. We said, we've had a bad experience with it. And the person who is in charge of that work is really doing a great job of supporting us through the warehouse. So I really appreciate she's also a LP parent. And so I really appreciate her support in making this adjustment for us to make sure we have these desks. And that comes with desks that are actually accessible for some of our students, where it's just a desk and then like a chair. So it doesn't have to have a chair. It could be a wheelchair that's accessible. So just we're really redoing that and then pulling out some of our junky rooms. Our teacher desks are junk. They're terrible. Honestly, they're like duct taped together. And so we need to keep pushing for our teachers having replacements of those desks. It's even the bad ones that just look bad, at least they're holding together. When we were moving things out of the room, Mr. Stuckey brought this up to me of like how basically they had to like reinforce it with other tables to keep it from falling apart as they pulled it out of the room. So we have an issue, and I would like for our teachers have not yet to gripe about this, and they should be. And we as a need to think about this moving forward about how to and we'll work with the warehouse to see how we can potentially get some other replacements for just teacher desks. They never sit at them, but they should have good ones in them, their rooms. That's building preparation at a quick snapshot. A lot of good things are going on outside, just in making it look better. But again, custodial, we're pushing it and have to monitor. There are sheets that have to be checked off. I'm expecting a walkthrough next week to make sure that that's been met. I feel our engineer staff are awesome. Mr. Cantori is our new chief. He rocks, and goes above and beyond. You'll see like things planted and grow, like sunflowers growing and like things. He's just trying to make it a better place. Final thing is really with hiring. These are 18 positions, 18, there may actually be one or two that just from today, just the extension of the, again, paternity and maternity leaves. We're trying to work with that a little bit. We have again, our interventionist, again, this is required by the district, every school has an interventionist. We have a phenomenal interventionist. We will introduce, going to ask when everybody starts. I would like to have a photo of all our new team members, a little squib about them, so our community can get to know our interventionists, our 3 individuals in society's position. We have somebody hired to do business. That was one of our top priorities, and we were right on it. TOK. You see the list of individuals here, several of the new teachers are ESL endorsed and or bilingual and or more representational of our students. And so I'm very, and they're the best of all the candidates. This was about hiring the best candidates. But I can say, for example, Ms. Pratapis is fluent bilingual. She's bilingual. Is Spanish endorsed as well, and INS endorsed. We're bringing back within wellness. We have a new teacher, Mr. Tharps. We're bringing back Mr. Liscano was employed. He was an awesome teacher here. That was an easy decision. When Ms. Walker told me that he was interested, I was very excited. Two Sikas. Mr. Anderson is our head basketball coach. Mr. Banks is our assistant basketball coach. I do believe that having coaches in building and staff, again, teaching and coaching in Texas and in Arkansas, Louisiana, anywhere you go, suburbs, that's how it works. And it builds relationships with our students. We have a new teacher in math and chemistry. We've hired 3 new learning behavior specialists. That's our diverse learning teachers. Ms. Pumanis and Ms. Arnott are both bilingual in Spanish. They also have ESL endorsements to be able to, Ms. Pumanis has an ESL endorsement. Ms. Arnott is bilingual and also is bilingual, so they'll be able to provide some of these sports. So she'll be supporting our co-taught and instructional Spanish classes. So we actually have co-teachers for our Spanish classes by a bilingual teacher. Mandarin, we have a new Mandarin teacher. That program is exploding. We have 3 Mandarin 1 classes this year. So happy to have Ms. Shen on board. Art, we have a candidate that we're trying to pull in to hopefully that not be a TBD. That we just found out about this, I believe it was last week. It was a short notice. Music TAT. Mr. Martin is going on sabbatical. Believe it or not, there is sabbatical in Chicago Public Schools. And he's going on sabbatical, I believe, to Germany. And we'll end up with like a master's degree. in a year, phenomenal. It's just he's gonna be able to bring back so many cool concepts, ideas for our students. So we have a TAT, temporary assigned teacher for Mr. Martin. Focusing on a chemistry TAT and a language literature TAT. We do have some candidates for the chemistry TAT. I just need to follow up on where we are with that process to have them onboarded. We do have cadres coming in with these content areas to be able to support. Cadres are full-time subs that have specialties in certain teaching areas. There may be, I anticipate there's potential for one more wellness for a week or two extension because of paternity leave, another maternity leave in English that wasn't on here. I just found out about in the last day or two that may be an extension. I'm not sure the board's response to that, what that looks like yet in the approval process. So it's sort of hazy to me. But I just wanted to give you an update of where our positions are at. Yeah.
Okay. The chemistry position. I think one of the saddest things that happened to us last year was the fact that, or the year before that, that students lost a year of chemistry. And every student deserves to have a quality teacher. But I want to say that the diploma students, the diploma program students that have to sit for exit exams were the ones that lost a year of chemistry. Their scores, I mean, we have the data, which you will see. I mean, they're out of 32 kids, seniors that sat for the higher level chem, 5 passed and 27 didn't. And that is unacceptable. And I think a huge part of it is because we did not deal with the chemistry situation. So what are we doing about, and I'm just speaking to those students. I can't even imagine the other students that weren't, you know, those kids will be okay in the end. You know, we know that some kids, who knows, but they didn't get credit. Therefore, probably not the diploma. So the chem Landry, is that a new teacher or is that the chem teacher that is going on maternity leave again? Therefore, we won't have a chem teacher for kids that are in the diploma program.
Chemistry is a full hired teacher. The TAT on the right side, the TBD, that is for someone on leave. Now, I want to express something. I'm extremely frustrated not have that data. And after a month asking for that repeatedly, for you to have it, me not to have it, does not give me the opportunity to respond to that. And I find that very frustrating and unacceptable.
Yeah, I think that at the beginning of the year, usually that is shared.
But you have it and I do not.
Right.
And I find that
because I understand, and I'm sorry, but can we?
that's not your
Yeah, it's not my fault, right? I mean, the scores come to me in the summer as a diploma program teacher. But I think let's get back on track. What that chemistry TAT, we knew at the end of the year that this individual is going to go on maternity leave. What have we done with those teachers that do teach chemistry that can be put into those particular classes? I hope I'm making sense right now.
So we're working with the district to get cadres and substitute teachers at this point. As we continue to work through the resumes we have right now, science specifically is a content area in which a TAT, somebody at this point, if there's a full-time job somewhere else for chemistry, a teacher is going to take it. And so we're trying to fill that chemistry position. I mean, it's a regular, I mean, there's been interviews going nonstop. So we're going to keep pushing to bring somebody else on. We bring then a cadre in who is potentially endorsed or has background in that area for it, if that's not the case. But it's something that we can't make somebody take the job, especially when there are shortages. We know there's shortages. That's why we're doing it for our diverse learning program. We're doing it effectively of building our internal house of having like backups. But when it comes to chemistry specifically, that's hard. So we're going to keep working on it. I can't make somebody.
So the chemistry teachers that we have are not willing, what you're saying is the chemistry teachers that we have now are not willing to potentially teach standard level and or higher level chem, or
I'm not even speaking of that. I'm just talking about like a position. Like this is from a position standpoint of not who's teaching what. Like those are adjustments that can be made of like working with the department chair, we can swap somebody to teach a class if we're concerned about A, B, and C. This is literally just about position staffing. So as a department chair can come in and say, I'm moving, teacher A is going to cover this specific chem class. We still will need a TAC.
No, I know that.
So yeah, this is just not describing specific classes, but describing just a position needing to be filled.
So those classes, again, for students in the IB diploma program are open because we don't have, is that what you're saying then?
I can't speak to like those specific classes. Only the position is vacant. It needs a TAC.
So kids could potentially be without a chem teacher and have to sit for exit exams. Yeah.
Could you grab a mic, Brad, please? Could you grab a mic?
We know a couple of years ago, which is why, when we see chemistry TAT, this was a situation we had a couple of years ago.
Mhm.
So to add on to what Sandy was saying, Miss Kaler was saying, one of the things we were asking about a couple of years ago when we saw this kind of information was, is there a chemistry teacher that's willing to come in so the kids didn't have like a handbook on how to use lab equipment that they didn't have access to? Right. And so if this ends up being a problem, are you saying right now that you're committed with the chemistry department head to make sure that the classes have teachers that are actually going to teach chemistry, even if we don't have this position filled?
As in covering the class, like not taking a 6th period on? I'm just clarifying.
Yeah, well, yeah, having the class covered so it's not a substitute that's not teaching chemistry. We could use words like endorsed or whatnot, but I'm just curious in the most basic.
The teacher would have to be willing to do that.
Right.
I can't, if a teacher is interested and willing and we can break up the funding for that position, then yeah. If teachers are not willing to, then no. I can't mandate teacher teach 6 classes.
So could we, if, again, this is all with what ifs, but if this ends up being a problem come September, can we have a department chair from chemistry, come and talk to us, or at least provide a plan to you so that we don't repeat prior years?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely work with our department chair. But like I said, yeah, there are contractual expectations. I can't mandate teachers teach 6 classes. I can't but we need to make sure we're supporting the students in those classes to the best of our ability. Ideally, it's with a TAT. Yeah, I can't say much more than what I've already said.
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you looking into that because I do know it's an area of concern. I think this year we had 17 students who wanted to take AP chemistry and we're not offering it because it didn't meet the 20 student threshold. So given the gaps in the past, are we creating a pattern of low opportunity for our students in this area? And if so, maybe we need a special something to find it, to rally. We kind of did a while back, but it's concerning. So I appreciate you looking into that.
Thank you.
And just parallel on the art, I see a TBD. Does that mean we're one person short in the art department?
Yeah, last week we had somebody who left. So we're looking to replace that person as quickly as possible.
Just last week they notified?
This is one of the difficult part when we have last minute notices. It makes it difficult to staff positions. I'm hoping that, this is the positions you see filled. We've had teachers who gave us ample notice and we've been able to staff them. When we have short notice, it's difficult staffing because over 100 high schools in the city of Chicago have hired them, or the outside districts have hired them. So last minute hiring is very, very difficult.
And I appreciate that. And this is a list it's in one hand, I know we want to harp on chemistry and I agree with harping on that. It's great to see that there's so many positions that have been filled. My question, which I think you just answered, which was these were all vacancies. Okay.
Yep. And just to sum things up, community fees are $400. Please pay them. They will be broken into 200, one for each semester. At Quick Start, families could either pay all for 100 or they could or they could do it by semester. I will not be moving forward with sports. It will remain TBD. And that was something that was a follow-up that I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on. And then we're good on that standpoint. And then SEL, you saw that within our professional learning calendar, our drills have been scheduled for the year. The staff handbook has been revised. It will be presented to our teachers. I'll go over some key points with our PPC, which is our partnership with our union when the school year starts and they are at the school. And just a lot of the behavioral supports are in place that I'm really excited about supporting our kids even further. Our interventionist will be in the freshman building right next to one of our youth interventionists. So we have both the academic and the SEL supports right next to each other. And so I'm really excited for that for our freshmen. These are the gajillion terms and acronyms that I tried to, hopefully I didn't get caught up in LBS1 too much, or the PT and PD and all the other different references. And hopefully I was able to make it make sense of it. Thank you.
Chair, if I can make one quick comment. I also just wanted to make note that I really appreciate your effort to hire bilingual. I know that I continue to reach out to Dr. Steinmiller on new arrival support, inside the school. And these are individuals who speak no English, and they happen to be living as STLS students, inside of, our boundaries. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Yeah, I'd like to emphasize that at probably our next meeting too, as we talk about some of our staffing. It is a high need of our school. I will be an increased amount. Last year we had 7 ESL endorsed teachers, and I was one of them. And Ms. Tukey, I think, was one of the other. So 5 actual teachers to support ESL students in classes. And even through the hiring, I think we've already doubled that amount. We are intentional about that. So thank you.
Also, to piggyback off that, I do want to say thank you for hiring more diverse teachers, because I know students have raised concerns that they want to see people that look like us at school in teaching positions and just not in like assistant principal positions. So I do want to say thank you to that.
Thank you, Latoya. Okay, so that concludes our principal's report, I think, right? Okay. The next item is an athletics update. So I think our AD is had a medical or family emergency, so he's not able to be here.
Yeah, our big thing with athletics was, again, summarizing, like we talked about fundraisers and those kind of activities. I actually do not have any additional report to go along with that, and I apologize for that. But from a financial standpoint, athletically, that's what I was able to report out on. Regretfully, we have the field out on diversity, and we have 2 containers, one for soccer and one for football, that were broken into this morning. Luckily, we were quickly able to respond. Nothing was stolen. The park district, however, their container was empty. But these are things that we have to just kind of keep on monitoring as we think about facilities and access and support for it. But our engineer, again, Mr. Cantori, went out there as soon as we were notified by the police, and he put locks on them immediately to make sure that nothing did get stolen after the fact. There were 3 locks on it. They were all sawed. That's all I've got for right now. Things that we are there. We have streamlined the athletic handbook, have been meeting with different coaches to talk about structures for financial support. We're putting together a budget. We did have a meeting with the athletic boosters, athletic director. Again, Mr. Kessler was a part of that meeting. We're looking at getting a budget for what is the financial need for all teams, so then we can start thinking long-term about how the boosters are supporting it financially, how we can reinforce it. What does that look like? And what potentially could become like a $300,000 to $400,000 budget for athletics that can be substantial, and think about how we are getting funds to be able to support all teams based on their needs. Football is very expensive. Pickleball is not. But making sure that
Pickleball sport now?
well, no, but it should be we do have badminton. But making sure that they're supported to have the resources they need. And that's why I've been heavily focused on finances, because that's a big part of like how we can build the best athletic program in the Chicago Public Schools.
Do we have all coaching vacancies filled for the fall?
I don't have the information to fully respond to that, so I don't have an answer for you.
What were we waiting on? Swimming?
I'm not sure.
Is Miss Walker now?
I'll try to find out, and then I can send communication to the LSC.
Okay. The other thing I would add is that at Quick Start, and again, at the Back to School Bash next week, we have clubs and sport teams who have all been invited, the coaches and sponsors, our students, to attend and sort of promote, say, hey, come join cross country, come join whatever. I don't think we have full representation, but I do know that several sports were there today, which we haven't had. So that's a good thing to be welcoming our freshmen and also promoting sports for all of our students. Okay, next item. So we have a series of committee reports here. Given the summer, I don't know that a lot of them have met, but I am gonna read each one and see if anyone has any updates. If so, feel free to share. So we have student reports and then school reports and then LSC reports. So I'll start with students. Student voice or student life. Is there anything you all would like to talk about?
Yeah, so I just wanted to just run you through a few things. So we held our organizational meeting on July 18th, where we just sort of went through our plans for the year, just sort of our policy advices and things that we're looking to push through. And I just wanted to run you through them right now if that works. So the first thing we discussed is mental health services. So last year, the Student Voice Committee released a survey to the entirety of the student body, which found that 54% of the 376 respondents agreed that mental health support at LP is entirely sufficient, only 54%. And that's obviously a concerning trend. And we're looking to implement some new mental health initiatives that will hopefully be able to lend some better support to that. The first thing we were looking at is potentially launching a poll or a survey out to students biweekly or monthly, just to sort of as like a benchmark poll for, tracking, mental health quality going throughout the year, and also sections where students can anonymously reach out to the school psychologist or mental health professionals at the school for direct support, just sort of making the first step and just giving them a direct step for how to seek mental health support. Also, we wanted to leverage the school psychologist office for more resources for parents, looking to facilitate more meetings to just give parents guidelines on how they could best support students that are going through mental health crises, and also potentially looking at leveraging post-secondary department, looking at implementing, stress relief strategies in college application processes, because, that's a very stressful time for, upper class persons. And then also one thing that we looked at that I know you mentioned, like a transportation subcommittee at the last meeting, this would sort of go hand in hand with that, but is traffic safety around the school is something that I think we need to take a little bit of a closer look at. Specifically the corner of Dickens and Burling, which is right over by the hill. I know personally, living in the neighborhood, I have walked across that street literally every day of my life, going back to kindergarten to go to school. And I've probably almost been hit by a car more times than I can count there, like especially during pickoff and drop off times. Like people are parking on curbs, they're double and triple parking in crosswalks, they're going around corners without stopping. It's extremely dangerous. And we were thinking about potentially working with the alderman's office to get traffic surveys going out and looking at maybe getting stop signs or raised crosswalks put there as just an extra barrier of support to, protect our students in the surrounding areas. And also one more intersection over at Armitage and Orchard, which feeds directly into the mall, where students cross if they were taking the bus or the train almost daily. I've heard from multiple people going through, stop signs and almost being hit. So I think that would be a great place for potentially a traffic camera. That's something that's seen a lot in neighborhood high schools throughout the city, like at Lane Tech. And I think that would be a really great investment for safety in this area. And then one more thing too, we wanted to start looking at, potentially holding like a few roundtables with students, teachers, and department chairs, looking at building some mutual understandings on missing work and homework policies. Not, I'm just to say this a little bit more clearly. I think I completely agree that it's important to be able to hold students accountable when it comes to missing work policies. I think that is a absolutely vital skill to have when you're going out into the real world. But I think in order to be able to do that effectively, it has to start with flexibility. It has to start with understanding and accounting for the entire lives of students, whether it be extracurriculars, family commitments, work opportunities, and sort of just trying to make the first step in building like mutual understandings between, teachers and students and getting some more input on workload. And then once you start to see a more manageable workload throughout the student body, that's when you can start really ramping up, like, more strict missing work things, like trying to keep that accountability. But first, you just have to make the first step in making sure that it's a manageable workload, so you're not putting unnecessary burdens on students. And then what last thing that we talked about, Akoya and I are both members of the Announcers Club, and we have had a lot of complaints from teachers and students that the schedule is not effective. It can be very disruptive. There's no like real set time or time of day, time during period where they're being held, and that, disruptions or excessive lengths, things along that parts. And the person in charge of the club released a survey to teachers last year too, which ended up getting around 56 responses. Of those, 44 said that they wanted announcements to be held in the same period consistently throughout the week. All of them saying either second or third period. So maybe some type of like alternating by quarters. And then additionally, 41 of the 56 said that they wanted it to be at the beginning of class periods rather than the end. So I think taking those statistics, the fact that it's almost a complete consensus, that would be a great way to look at rescheduling announcements going into the beginning of the school year. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for meeting during the summer. And seems like it was a very organizational meeting. That's great. Thank you.
Can I just ask one
Yes, Ms.
question?
Zemnick.
With the mental health initiatives that you guys are taking, will you also partner with, because I know like the school psychologist, correct me if I'm wrong here, though, typically does more of the IEP testing
Yeah, that's
pieces, but the social workers and Tom will do more of like the.
Definitely. Yeah. So I said school psychologist for some more direct, but just generally more like with the mental health professionals in the school would be like great resources to be able to launch those outreach programs.
Yeah, I think there could be some really interesting things you could do too, like around meditation, like bringing in, perhaps meditation teachers from the community. I mean, we have a community of people who are really invested in some of this. And so it might be great to just think kind of even bigger outside the school, what resources you could bring in to help support mental health.
Great recommendation.
Great. Thank you. Next are school reports. So this is PPLC and IB. I don't know if there's anything from PPLC to report right now, given the summer, but.
No, just that within the first 5 weeks, we need to hold another general meeting with faculty and staff. Dr. Steinmiller and I typically handle that now that Dave's here on it. And within that first 5 weeks, we choose a new PPLC. So we will have a vote within that 5 weeks.
Great. Okay. Thank you. One other thing I know I just shared recently, we haven't discussed it at all, is the generative AI as a topic. And I mentioned Dr. Steinmiller over the summer. Generative AI is impacting, many sectors of life, and education being one of them. Is there any guidance from CPS that we have, or for teachers on the use and application and things like that? So maybe that will be something that PPLC will take up. I don't know, but just wanted to mention that.
I think that if Ms. Tookie was here, she would probably tell you that because we are an all IB school, that IB has taken a position IBO on this.
Oh, great.
And it's a positive position, meaning that any new technology that does present itself is something to be explored and to be discussed and evaluated that AI is something that is not necessarily a negative, that it can be a positive. And this is just another example of ways that we as IB teachers have to be aware of.
Right.
There are students that pay for people to write their college applications or essays. It's just another format. So I think as a school, we need to have every teacher. I think we need to have a meeting with all teachers to explore what that looks like.
Yeah. Well,
and we use turnitin.com, and turnitin.com has finally started AI checking.
Good. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. And maybe with that professional development calendar that's laid out, there could be some days in the year that could be. Okay, great. Let's see. LSC subcommittees. we have safety and security, community relations, principal evaluation, communication and facilities. Safety and security.
So we haven't met yet for the year. I do know, and if you can share, Chair, that your strategy on subcommittee, necessarily selections or assignments.
Yep.
I will mention, just because I also wear the hat of chair of police council for this area, that we have committed more squad car presence in and around the school. So you'll see, if you've been around here, that there's more cars driving Armitage and driving Halsted and from areas. Those are officers often on overtime or from other areas. But we're committing to it, especially, daytime and nighttime, because of the traffic from DePaul and other places. I will follow up on safety. I do know that we, in end of last year in the safety committee, we did talk about trying to have a police car presence at dismissal time that was somewhere in the area to be responsive to issues that might come up on Halsted. And so that's still a conversation topic that if we start up again, we'll talk about where the potential whereabouts could be of that car to respond to issues that might come up. The only other thing I'll mention is that I know Lori Shoes is going to start. I think we're going to start at Lori Shoes, kind of a monthly safety meeting for the stores on Armitage because of their concerns, about what's going on in and out of their stores in the area. So I think it's also an opportunity to create, other types of relationships between the school. Although there's consistent feedback about AP Theus, and others in the school of just being great partners.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Brad. Thank you very much. So that safety, community relations, same fits in with that? Or?
I think we're excited about potentially getting another community member.
Right. Okay.
On the community relations, it's not totally community relations, but kind of. I did speak with Alderman Knutsen's chief of staff. We had a meeting to talk about homecoming and some of the things we want to do in terms of, and I would love both of your and Jane when she's back, maybe as thought partners on this around homecoming parade, doing some window painting like before homecoming, sort of like old school throwback to how they do it in other suburban districts where the stores partner with student groups and the student groups celebrate homecoming by painting the windows and things like that. So that might be also something. I don't know if it would go through Student Voice or perhaps, the boards, the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior boards.
I think that goes more to Student Life Committee, which I can also take because I am also a part of that. But that's our sponsors, AP Theus.
Okay, perfect. Yes, we've been in contact. So, but that would be just a great way to really continue to partner with stores in the community and improve the relationship with the community.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Thanks very much. Next is principal evaluation. We've not had any activity this summer. It is worth noting that this is a year for cumulative evaluation for the principal that will be happening and be completed by December or in December. So that's a process we'll be in the next couple months heading into. Yes, Ms. Kaler.
Is it okay as teacher reps that we let the staff know what the timeline is and what is going on? They don't have any access to the evaluations, but that they know that December is voting for renewal. And
Yeah.
just so
I mean, it's yeah. I don't know if there's a particular format for that, but you can.
Well,
tell
Dr.
people-
Steinmiller can okay the email, but just so they know what's happening in terms of principal evaluation.
Yeah, we can communicate the timeline. We don't have a detail around it, but basically the answer is by the first week of December, we have to decide. So
Yeah. Right.
There'll be a bunch of stuff between now and then.
Okay.
Yeah, if y'all work as a subcommittee and there's communication from the subcommittee that you want to go
That's
out,
true. We can
I
do
can
that.
send
Okay.
it. I have no problem.
Okay.
Thank you. Communication, Ms. Zemnick, if anything.
So the website refresh is going well.
Great.
We have communications ready to send out to the community in advance. Keep it coming, Mr. Stuckey. Keep it coming.
Okay, great. Well, we look forward to seeing that. And that's going to be a new homepage primarily, right?
Mhm.
And the final draft / review will take place within the week,
Okay.
this week. this
Okay.
week.
We look forward to it. And I think there's been some content updating happening this summer. So old coaches have been removed, new coaches are added and so on. I will throw out to the community, if anyone sees things on the website that they think are wrong or have suggestions, please write the LSC email. We'd love to create a dialogue to improve it. And if you're interested, we have a subcommittee dedicated to that will, may have some meetings we can connect you with, but thank you for that update. It's great. Last one is facilities. I don't know if there's anything else to add beyond what we've said.
In addition to what Dr. Steinmiller shared, we were able to get one meeting going, and it's just regretful we couldn't meet at the end of last school year and during the summer. More so, I would say that our site supervisor has recently been reorganized, but in a benefit to the school, and that now he covers the schools in the surrounding area. So the feeder schools and this school, so he can better advocate for how we can share resources. So that's a thumbs up with how CPS organized this.
Okay.
Otherwise, I know that, again, depending on how we organize the subcommittees, we will jump back into a meeting structure.
Great.
And we did bring up to one of the key points that has been coming up in some of the facilities meetings from an LSC standpoint is how do we effectively secure our mall? I mean, we brought up point of ballards or fences and different options, but we need to explore that just even over the course of the summer when nobody's been here, people drive on it like it's a driveway. And so we have to address.
The ongoing topics are largely around facilities in the area. So dog usage of the grassy areas. We have
A guy just almost took me out on my way in because I challenged him on using the dog run.
So one of my favorite things, and I welcome anyone to also do this, if they see a dog in one of the areas, ask them whether they're willing to pay to use the area. That is one of my favorite questions, and I'll stop and ask, and then how much are you willing to pay? One thing that I think we're going to explore, again, depending, on facilities or budget, are there potential creative ways to lean in? Because we've put locks and they've been cut. We've put temporary, we've taken down fencing to make it less, restrictive so that people can't take dogs off leashes without them running away. And people put up temporary walls, it is a very creative effort by folks who want to have their dogs inside of our school spaces. And so we continue to try, but what we haven't tried is saying we're creating a membership and this is the only dedicated space to use it, and trying to encourage people to police themselves after other people have paid to get access. So that's a creative way we're starting to think about it, is let the dog walking community or dog ownership community police themselves. But yeah, we're nascent at this and we're trying to be creative.
Oh my God.
It's everything. Yeah.
We literally by I mean, you wouldn't believe how absurd it is. The fence outside the cafeteria, we took the ends of the gate off, gone, and then little walls were established with and zip tied on. We've taken that and it gets put back up, and then we've taken the metal doors off of the gates. And
I mean, literally, I was walking in today and this guy was in the area. The dog took off out of the park onto the mall. He picked the dog up, a big dog, and is carrying it back into the space. And I said, I didn't know that money was an option. I would have asked that question. I said, excuse me, do you mind? This space isn't really for dogs. And he says, and I said it like that, Dr. Simon, and he was, you don't have to be so angry with me. And I was like, this space is for the school. I mean, it's.
I actually do think, and we can talk about this again in facilities and then bring up the next meeting. It could be a really decent fundraiser. And I think, again, the only thing that we're left to do is lean in and try to see if a community can police themselves.
As long as the dogs aren't pooping and they're not cleaning it up and then they're stuck. It's
Right.
disgusting.
Well, here's, yeah, which is why, again, we would dedicate one specific space as we explore this, which would keep every type of comment in mind and try to keep it as far away from, classrooms as possible. And again, if we created a membership package, I'm not prepared to fully describe this, but if we created this, we would make it expensive enough that we can afford to clean up, if that came to be. But we're gonna brainstorm this further.
Membership. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. The Canine Club. Okay.
LPHS
Just
K-9
one comment on facilities I wanted to make, and this goes back to what you were saying earlier. I hear you that there's a punch list. We haven't gotten to some of the cosmetic stuff, whatever, paint. I do think it's important for students coming back that you walk into a place that looks cared for. In the past, the first time I came to Lincoln Park High School was when my kids were in like 4th grade, and a paint-a-thon was organized. Mr. Boraz was here. I think, Amy, you were involved in that. So I came and was painting classrooms in the freshman building. Like, is that a possibility? Can we paint walls or other things or clean up? Could it be a community builder, barn builder, something like? I know Mr. Cantori, I've written him, he's wonderful, but he said, I am short-staffed, there's more to do than I can handle. Totally get it. Can we augment him somehow? I would love to do something like that.
So that, when we did that, I think we raised almost $20,000 to pay for the paint. Maybe it was between 13 and 20,000 that we had to fundraise to pay for the paint. And then we had to get the volunteers and we did it in the summer. And some weekends, and then we had to move all the furniture and have it moved back in time. So it was
Big deal.
it was a pretty massive undertaking at the time when
Yeah.
we did it. And then somehow
Maybe it's
we
just
ended up
touch
with
up.
big
I hear
green
you.
walls.
That's a good point. I just would like us to think creatively and see what we can do. Because like even this room, I don't think it needs to be repainted, but a couple things.
Yes, it
yeah, it'd be
does.
great.
It needs to be repainted.
Well, that's a higher bar than I have. There's a lot of stuff that's, so, okay. And then is there anything just real quick, and then we're going to move to the vacancy candidate statement. So just thank you all for bearing with us. With regard to the auditorium funding, anything, is there anything happening there that we know of or no?
Yeah, over the summer, we had 3D imaging of the whole area as we're working towards fundraising efforts to have the renovation of our auditorium and back area, and also like ADA accessible bathrooms.
Okay.
That whole section can also be then separated from the main building for rentals on weekends, and so it can become also a financial opportunity for our community. So that's something that we're working on next. That happened. Person was here for a long period of time, but those are some of the things that we're working on those efforts.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to make one last comment about the transportation subcommittee. Alex brought it up a little bit earlier too. We're going to try to bring it into the finance subcommittee as a conversation topic and figure out whether there's a bandwidth to take on transportation as again, it's a budget item. And so we're going to see whether we can create out of that finance committee, that conversation. And then we'll get back to this, this monthly meeting, whether that's successful or not in an organizational matter.
Great, thank you. But that would be really great because I know it's a big need for students and finances. Okay, so we now have new business, and the main item of new business is LSC vacancies. We have on the LSC currently 4 open positions. 2 of them are parent representatives. One of them is community representative, and one of them is a non-teaching staff member. 3 of those, well, two of those we're going to address. The parent and community we're going to address tonight. The non-teaching staff is done under Dr. Steinmiller and the teachers guidance once school starts, I believe. Okay, so that will happen in the first couple weeks of school. But for tonight, we have a few candidates. And just to summarize, the LSC is made up of 1 principal, 1 non-teaching staff rep, 2 community reps, 2 teacher reps, 3 student reps, and 6 parent reps. So we have currently 2 vacancies for parents and 1 community rep. We've invited, sent a note to the community, invited people to respond with a written statement, which people did. Thank you all for doing that. Those statements have been shared with the LSC. And we invited people tonight to come and make a statement for up to 5 minutes, 3 to 5 minutes. And I know we have several candidates here. There's 1 candidate who could not attend because she's out of the country. She did make a video that we have a recording of, and we'll be able to share that. Both online and in the room. And so that's what we're going to do. I would like to begin with the video first, and then the remaining candidates, we will just be picking out of a hat, a metaphorical hat that we have here on the table. And then we will move to go into closed session. We'll discuss the candidates and make a selection, and then we'll come out and announce who that is. And we'll communicate with those individuals, and then tonight, and then we'll be on our way to have mostly a full LSC. So any comments or questions from members of the LSC before we move into that? Okay. So this is a woman named Laura Yepes, and she made a video, and we're going to be able to watch it now. Thank you, Dr. Steinmiller, and Mr. Hardesty for queuing this up for us.
Got it.
Yes, thank you. This is a community member. We have, Bill, 4 candidates for community for 2 positions. And then we have, I'm sorry, for parent, sorry. And then 1 person for community rep for 1 position.
So she's a parent rep.
She's a
not
parent rep.
community rep. Okay.
Parent, did I say community?
Yeah.
Sorry.
All right, I want to make sure this works. Of course. Oh, brother.
I think. it was
Yeah.
off.
I'm gonna let you-
Why is it not working? All right, I'm gonna tinker with it for a second because the sound is not working. So please be patient. Nope.
Can't. Okay. No, I don't. Oh.
Let's try something.
Is it setting? Your boxes.
There's a mute on the this.
Mr. Hardesty is gone, right?
What I can do, good, okay.
But I don't know how to take the audio.
Then it'll start. Echo. Let's give this.
Possibly you could play it. Video on that.
No any jokes.
Yeah.
Is that?
I can answer it too. I didn't know I
There does need to be some fun. It's not sense, it's not safe thing. And it's sort of, we can all say. So like one of us. Something. And one. Yeah. I'm going. Is that? I'm going. Right. Everyone needs. You know what we're doing, right?
Yeah.
I need to make that. Yeah. I know, yeah.
Think so? It's right.
Yeah.
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 Oh, okay.
Okay, everybody. We are ready to go. Miss Tookie. All right, Miss Tookie. Hi.
Thank you, everyone, for the few moments. Now we're going to resume. Thank you.
Yes, we fixed the video audio and are now going to begin with Laura Yepes, candidate for parent representative.
All right.
We hit that. We can't hear. Okay. Great. Thanks, Dr. Steinmiller, for manning that technologically. So that's what candidate for parent rep. We have 4 other candidates here, and I have made a hat with their names on it. I'm going to go over to the students to ask them. Next name, whoever is there will have 5 minutes. Paul.
I'm for the community.
All community.
Want to go up there first?
Well, thank you so much. And just thank you for all you all do. As someone who's part of the Alcott LSC, I know how hard this is. So educators, students, parents, staff, just everyone, thank you for all you do. So as I mentioned, I'm part of the Alcott LSC. And when I found out there was a vacancy for the community rep, I was really excited because I want to continue doing that. But my expertise and my years of experience are with this age group. And I'm the father of 2 daughters, but they're 2 and 3 months old, so a little ways away. But just to kind of give you a sense of kind of my story, I saw in college some of my best friends, the challenges with academic preparation and financial issues, mental health, emotional issues in that transition to college. And so I decided I wanted to build a program to help address that. And so I worked at a place called the Harlem Children's Zone for 4 years. Helping more than 700 students get into college with the focus on getting through college and the wraparound supports that young people need. Brought that perspective from being, kind of everything outside of the classroom for a lot of young people to working in policy, serving in the Obama Department of Education and White House to just try to lift up educators' perspectives, best things happening in schools around the country. And so when my wife and I came back to the Midwest, after that, I've been teaching at National Louis University with a lot of CPS grads and teach career development, helping young people really clarify their goals, working with them on the cover letters and their writing and get to the dreams that they have. I run an organization called Rust Belt Rising. That's a leadership development organization in the Midwest. And I also write about American history. For why I wanted to really do this, Amy's brainchild of One School, One Community, I think is outstanding for those who don't know, where she really had this dream of, we got to convene LSCs from across the neighborhood. And it's been really fun working with Amy and Brad on that on behalf of Alcott. And it's gotten me just very inspired and invested in, how do we make sure people know the good news about the amazing things happening at Lincoln Park High School? And so I do a lot of public outreach on behalf of Alcott. This would be kind of seamless. I think I can hit the ground running with trying to do that work on behalf of Lincoln Park High School. An LSC, you need people that are like reliable, who will show up, who have good judgment, who really want to listen, bring people together and have some informed perspective. And so I think I have all that. Anyone at Alcott will tell you, I just bring a real passion to this. And I really want to make sure, I hear it at Alcott, I hear it around the neighborhood, just inaccurate things about Lincoln Park High School, just, outdated or just outright was never true. And we got to make people really excited about the things that are happening here, tell the story of the premier community neighborhood school in Chicago, and get the neighborhood, more involved with it. I think that's really crucial for the future, for the physical infrastructure, for the opportunities for young people. So would love to work with this group. Just thank you for all you're doing and want to help keep building on this progress for a really special, outstanding place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kendrick. Next. Ashley, right? Okay, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. So my name is Tim Paschke. I'm announcing my candidacy as parent rep for the council. I'm the parent of twin sophomores, Grayson and Gabrielle. Thank you, everybody, for giving me the opportunity to speak. Of course, I have to admit that the notion of a local school council was new to me. So my little background about me, I've been in the Air Force, just recently retired. So really my whole working career was with the Air Force. I grew up in Park Ridge. My wife grew up in Lincoln Park, and now we're back here. So we were very excited to bring our kids back, and we were here for last year. So this is going to be really the first and only Chicago public experience that they have. And so we're glad to be part of it here. In learning about the LSC, you know, I've really grown to appreciate its importance in the way that the community, the parents, and then even the students are able to participate in making sure the quality of education and the quality of the administration is at the level that they want it to be. I contest that is not my time. I will not go over though. I know it's been a long session and you have to go into closed session afterwards. So, yeah, it's clear that we've got excellent leadership in Dr. Steinmiller, but it's also equally clear that we've got an excellent team who's eager to hold him to the standard that we expect. So I recognize that that's really the primary role of the LSC is to make sure that the leadership and the oversight from the outside agency is there to hold him to the high standards that he set for himself, as well as to approve, pardon me, the educational program that we expect. So what do I bring to the table? Well, an enthusiasm for volunteering. Over my Air Force career, I really was not able to participate in a lot of the my children's school opportunities as I wanted to, because I just didn't have a predictable schedule. So now I'm able to do that, and I'm really excited about it. I do have an experience with administrative responsibilities and oversight coming from a military background. So I've got that, as well as I spent 5 years at the training program for one of our aircraft. And so I spent a lot of time developing educational programs, as well as interfacing directly, not with high school students, but with recent high school graduates who had recently joined the Air Force. So I think I've got a kind of a sense of, a broad background, cross-section of individuals that come into the military was eye-opening for me, because it was really kind of a across the country cross-section. And I do see a similar diversity of the student experience here at Lincoln Park. So I'm kind of excited to be part of that. And so that background in educational program review, kind of in an institutional setting with a, kind of a strict series set of rules and regulations, pretty familiar to me. So I think I've got some background to be able to participate with that. And with that, I know we've got more speakers and then closed session for you. So that's everything that I've got to say. And thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So, hello, and yeah, I hope I will be very, very short. Everyone is hungry. I am. So, yeah, I've been here entering my 10th year in Chicago. I'm originally from Croatia, sailing through the Netherlands and ending up here. And of my 10 years, I spent 7 years around the school, which I think is just amazing place, amazing teachers. And I have my 2 sons. One just graduated in Amsterdam. He is majoring in psychology. What he got from this school get him go through school so easy, in both in terms of his academic performance, but also how he understands himself in the world as a really child understanding that world is different than looking at just one side. So he is now 21, with his friend from Mexico that he met in this school, Moises, I don't know him. So now they are visiting their relatives in Cuernavaca. It's beautiful. The other one is a great soccer player. He's a tall, blonde guy, just starting the program, and what they are getting of being part of the community and the neighborhood, this is something that in a way I think I could give back with being around you guys and working with you. Professionally, I'm an architect. I work in IT, College of Architecture. I run a program, award program for architecture, for the best architecture in the Americas. So I, again, am comparing the cultures of Canada, US, and all countries of South America. Basically, I do budgets, I do coordination, I write, I do publications. So everything which is kind of coordinating things around award program. So yeah, I don't think I have much more to say. Let's keep it short. So yeah, that's why.
Great. Thank you so much. Okay. Oh, I did not see that. No, but please, we have one more candidate here. We'll have her go and then you go, please. Thank you. All right, Mindy Hilt. Thank you, Mindy.
Sounds short. There we go. Hi, I'm Mindy Hilt. I have a junior now here at Lincoln Park. She transferred here last year. She started her freshman year at Senn High School, which ended up being an insane commute. And she went to the art program, then she changed her mind. She just went to IB. Then she came here. She's not even doing IB. Kids. So what I really love about Lincoln Park, and she loves Lincoln Park, is that you do have this incredibly diverse set of programs, incredibly diverse set of students, teachers, administrators. It's a really great place. I'm a huge believer in quality public neighborhood schools. My kids have been in CPS since they were 3 years old. I have another daughter at Lane, and we're just a really big fan of this school. I have served on my elementary school LSC. They went to Drummond Montessori. And then I was on the Senn LSC 2 years ago, the 1 year that we were there. And I think, as I said in my statement, we went through a whole thing while I was there. So I feel like I bring a wealth of experience that just briefly, a week before school started, CPS took the principal, they took the art director, they took a couple of the department chairs and promoted them. And then Senn was left to figure it all out for a year. So, it was a challenging year. It was a challenging time on the LSC. We had a lot of discussions long into the night. I know how it is to be at a really long LSC meeting and a long principal selection committee. And I've also been on the CIWP committee, and I know what it is to be on a long one. So I'll keep my comments brief and just say that I'm very interested in this process. I believe in public education. I believe in student voice. I believe in our teachers. I think this is a great school. So that's what I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. And then community candidate. I'm so sorry I did not see an email. So welcome. Yeah. Community rep. Yeah.
Fourth generation. Actually, I've had 4 generations in the ward. My grandmother was born here, the 43rd ward in 1903. My mother, Diane Farwick, was actually a teacher here back when it was Waller High School for several decades. She initiated the International Baccalaureate program, the mock trial program, the wing spread program. She was an integral part of advancing the curriculum here at Lincoln Park High School. I'm a small business owner. I'm a professional musician. I've toured the world. I come from a family of educators. My sister is the chair of the education department at DePaul University. She and my mom, certified teachers, some of them I think that ended up here. My family members, friends, neighbors, all have had children that have attended Lincoln Park, do attend Lincoln Park, and will attend Lincoln Park. So I feel with my roots here and the fact that I've been here so long and involved in the community, Sheffield Neighbors Association, volunteering, I feel like I have a voice. I have some experience that I think would benefit the students, the staff, and the community in general. So that's pretty much my pitch, and I hope I can help out if you decide that I might be a good candidate. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so before we move into closed session, just if there are any public comments people would like to make, we could do that. Otherwise, we're gonna make a vote, move into closed session to discuss candidates, and then we'll email once we, everybody individually, once we figure out what we're doing. So if anyone has public comments, we'd ask 2 minutes. Thank you.
I think it's a good idea to do public comments both at the beginning and end. Beginning so people don't have to wait 3.5 hours. And at the end, in case somebody is stirred by something you guys said, you don't have to wait another month. So that prompts me to get up, which is all the discussion about the sports. Having 2 kids who recently graduated, I'll just cut to the chase, and there's usually people who don't like to be specific. I'll be specific. The baseball team raised a lot of money. And I'm very confident that nobody knows where it went. And so you focused on the raising the money. They actually did a very good job of raising the money. I don't know what the web service was. The kids were told to send out emails to grandparents and neighbors, and they raised a lot of money. And as parents, we have no idea where it went or what it was used for. Small issue, you guys deal with big issues, but small issue, minutia. There is a fence that sat out in the field that cost $20,000. That was half paid by Oz Park Baseball Association, half paid by the baseball team, supposedly. And you know my cynicism, only here could we purchase a baseball fence. That's not a baseball fence. That's a heavy security fence that people probably saw out there that ended up being just used to block dogs off. And literally the baseball can roll under the fence. So it was a complete waste in terms of I prefer solutions rather than blame, but it was a fiasco. And to me, it's reflective of a lot of the problems with the sports programs. So the bigger picture point is money was actually raised. I have no idea where it went to. That's it. Thanks for what you did.
Thank you very much for letting us know about that. Any other public comments, Ms. Hilton?
Like you had mentioned, I like the beginning and end because you get to hear everything. But celebrations, I did want to share out. Having athletics at Quick Start was really beneficial. We were able to meet some really promising incoming students today. So thank you to everyone that brought forth those ideas of athletic representation. I'm here to advocate for all of athletics. All of athletics does need help with funding, not just the dance team, not just the football team. I'm very thankful for the support that we received in the past. It's very costly on our students and families to participate in these sports. As we know, we do have a large population of students that is from a lower SES area, and that can cause some financial need for those students to do athletics or clubs or other things when we're asking for additional fees. We have a lot of great athletics and programs offered. Someone mentioned today at Quick Start that they had based their decision to attend LP versus another school based on athletic teams. So that was very exciting. But I do think that we are putting out there that there is no money for athletics in the CPS budget, but I'm a little confused by that. Because on the CPS budget on page 171, it states that every school gets $24K for athletics. And there's also a bus budget on there for transportation, which is $130K. So I think we need to go back and look at our budget as a school and where those funds are being allocated to. I think we need to identify the teams that need more funding, the teams that haven't received any funding. I know there were a lot of questions asked about the dance team last year. We did receive a lot of funding, which was amazing, but we've not received funding before in the past, where there are teams that receive a big chunk of funding every year to put on special events for new equipment. Football helmets are very expensive, but needed. And we were encouraged very heavily to fundraise, which we are still doing. But I don't know if every team is fundraising as heavily as they need to so that we can promote other teams and sustain other teams. So I think as a whole, we need to look into that. Every team has been asked to submit a yearly budget. That was very eye-opening to me and what our team had actually spent per year. So thank you for that. But I think we also need to see a budget of where those funds have gone, maybe the past 5 to 10 years, and what teams were really funding heavily, and get them to start fundraising too, so other teams can utilize some of those funds. Mr. Talmers, you had spoke about athletic websites being streamlined by CPS. That actually happened last year, but ours was never fully finished. We're still developing it. I know dance is still not listed under a fall sport on that website. And it also lists that there is a JV dance team, which is not even a team that is offered by any CPS. It's not allowed. So we need to fix our athletics website, or else every team is going to have their own website, which I do. I use Google Sites for any athletic team that needs to use that. It's a free database. I also want to mention CPS schools want to help and support other schools. Although I don't teach here, I'm still very involved. I'm still coming to these LSC meetings because of athletics and other sectors that I help out with LP. I have friends that teach here, and I do see LP's potential and growth and changes that are being made that are good for the students and for the teachers. But I do recommend, if you're struggling with something as a school, to reach out to other schools, see how it's being done. Because I know there's a lot of talk about scheduling here. I had my schedule April 14th. I had my first tentative schedule of what I'd be teaching and where I would be teaching and what periods I would be teaching. I know that's very frustrating for the educators in this room, online and in this school. If your schedule changes the week before school starts, your class got canceled, you have to plan a whole new curriculum in a couple days. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to the students. This is definitely challenging. It is a big challenge at LP to get these schedules done. Reach out to other CPS schools and see what they're doing, because it's not a good way to start the year with your educators feeling frustrated and anxious as to what's going on. Yes, last thing, I do live by Taft High School, and I do take my dog to the dog park at Taft High School, and they do have a fenced off area there, and they do charge a yearly fee for the dog park. So it is a CPS park. There is a dog park in it. It is roped off. You do have to pay a yearly fee. I know we had dance practice on Monday out in the field, and there were dogs all over running into our practice. So it's doable. I don't know how they did it. I don't know who to contact, but you can create a dog park at Oz Park somehow and charge people for it. And people will pay. I did pay to take my dog to that dog park. So yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
One other thing, which is my kids' baseball team had 17 away games. They had buses for 3 out of 17 games. And I have a daughter at a different CPS school. She got her schedule 9 days ago. I have a neighbor who's a teacher at Taft. She got her schedule and knows what classes she's teaching about 5 or 6 days ago.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Okay. I'd like to make a motion to move the LSC into closed session. And just to clarify, that means that everyone else is released to go, because we'll be in here. Is there a second? Ms. Zemnick? Okay, all those in favor? We're in a closed session. Thank you everyone for coming. Thanks to all the candidates. I want to say, as you leave, wherever we land with who is on the LSC, please stay involved. We need every hand at the table. This is only one of many, many forums. So please look beyond whatever we do tonight. And thank you all for your time and for taking time to submit. Okay. We're gonna need to record too.
Maybe make sure we.
Oh, yeah, we should close. So for those of you on the Zoom, we're about to end that. Thank you all for joining. Oh, you know what? Hey, we forgot to read the comments here. Last year, dogs were consistently brought to the turf under the freshman building west side during class. Lots of barking happening, disrupting class, taking students' attention. Thank you, Mr. Federico. Can't see the Zoom through the Zoom, only a screen. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for that. I will share that with